Chapter 779. After Xiongji was arrested, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan returned to class with the rest of the students to continue their day at school. Nothing out of the ordinary happened during the third class. Just as Feng Bujue was wondering how long it would take for Xiongji to be released, the next day, in the morning, an aside system voice suddenly rang in his ears. At the same time, the scenery before his eyes changed from the classroom to a street. Furthermore, his posture had changed from sitting to standing. This is... Feng Bujue reacted instantly. Teleportation. The next second, Wang Tongji's voice came from the side. It's a jump transfer. Feng Bujue turned to look at Xiao Tan. Have you encountered this kind of teleportation before? Yes, I have. Xiao Tan replied. Xiao Ling and I played a scenario before. Whenever we finished a quest, we would change locations like this, and we would end up at the same place every time. The only difference was the timing. I see. This was the first time that Feng Bujue had encountered a scenario like this. Just as the two were talking, suddenly, Kia! Another Japanese scream came from afar. Looks like something has happened again, Xiao Tan said. Feng Bujue said darkly. Based on the scream, it doesn't sound like Miao Mei. Could this case be? 2 minutes later, the two arrived at the source of the scream. It was the backyard of a family. By then, many people had gathered in the backyard, including crocodiles, hippopotamuses, and giraffes. Mao Taro, son Taro. Of course, there was also an orange bear. There's a case here. He turned around and used his innocent bear face to greet the two players. Of course. With you around, how can there be no cases? Feng Bujue grumbled internally as he walked toward the man. Brother Ju. Xiao Tan whispered into Brother Ju's ear as he walked. If I'm not mistaken, the criminal of this case is Xiongji again, right? Of course. Feng Bujue said. In any case, we should observe from the side. After the previous case, we have some experience. This time, we have to stop him from digging his own grave. Tu Mei-chan, you're here as well. Before the two of them finished speaking, Xiongji said to a person, Rabbit, who was not far away, there's a case here. Are you feeling uncomfortable after being arrested? Feng Bujue immediately roared in his mind. Speaking of which, this guy stole the school's swimsuit yesterday, right? He was released after only 1 day? That's too polite of him. I knew it was a case when I heard the scream. At the same time, Tu Mei, who was walking from afar, replied to Xiongji. Then, she walked to the front of the crowd and said to the victim, What happened? Xiang Mei-chan. This time, the victim was an elephant, but the anthropomorphic elephant was not much bigger than the rest of the people. Besides, Xiang Mei was set to be the classmate of Tu Mei and Xiongji, which meant that she was an elementary school student. It was a peeping Tom. Tu Mei-chan, someone saw me when I was taking a shower, Xiang Mei replied with some excitement. Almost at the moment when she finished speaking, Tu Mei suddenly turned around and cast a sharp look at Xiongji. Hey, what are you doing? Xiongji replied nervously. It's not me. Why are you looking at me like that? Although I do have a criminal record. This time, it's not Xiongji. Xiang Mei then said, When the criminal was running away, I heard him barking. Brother Ju, the criminal this time doesn't seem to be Xiongji. The naive Xiao Tan heard this and immediately turned to Brother Ju. Did you graduate from medical school with the IQ of an elephant? Feng Bujue was too lazy to explain to him and directly threw back a sarcastic remark. Woof woof. On the other side, Tu Mei placed her left hand on her waist and stroked her chin with her right hand. She looked into the distance thoughtfully and assumed a deductive posture. Normally speaking, the culprit should be a dog. But we can't rule out the possibility that the culprit saw Mei-chan's naked body and said, Wonderful, which led to the sound of one. I don't think so. At this time, Xiongji stepped forward and said with a serious face, Think about it again, Tu Mei-chan peeping is an unforgivable offense. And the criminal is really dirty, he's obviously F***ck. Just as Xiongji was about to say that the criminal was obviously a bear, but he pretended to bark like a dog to disrupt the investigation, Brother Ju roared and jumped up from the ground. A suave roundhouse kick landed on Xiongji's bare face and sent him flying. The crowd was shocked. Hey! Xiao Tan involuntarily screamed. Didn't you say we couldn't kill him earlier? It's fine, with this kind of injury. He'll wake up after a short while. Feng Bujue turned back to tell him, after all, this scenario has a jump, as long as you don't kill him, it'll be fine. But, Xiao Tan said and used his eyes to signal Brother Ju to look back. Is it really okay for you to do this in public? Feng Bujue was startled when he heard that. He turned back to look, and everyone, animal, was looking at him with fear and caution. What are you doing? Mao Taro, Tu Mei asked, why did you suddenly attack Xiongji-kun? Feng Bujue was trying to think of a way to get away with it. Tu Mei immediately said, no matter what, it's wrong to purposely injure someone. I'll call the police first. Wait. I can explain. Brother Ju tried to stop her. But Tu Mei ignored him completely and called the police station as fast as she could. Hello? Is this the police station? There's been an incident. Please come to Xiang Mei's backyard as soon as possible. She only took 5 seconds to finish the sentence and then hung up. F***ck me. She didn't even give the details of the incident and the specific address. Feng Bujue mumbled to himself. 2 seconds later, Bunny Mei turned around as if nothing had happened and assumed the reasoning pose again. Then, let's continue the reasoning about the peeping incident. What? Feng Bujue was startled. The jump that he expected did not happen. In fact, the plot continued. Several seconds later, Xiao Tan walked to his side and whispered, Brother Ju, could the appearance of the jump be related to the time? Brother Ju's expression shifted. I believe it's not only the time. He turned to look at the unconscious Xiongji on the ground. It's also related to the conclusion of the incident. Chapter 780. In other words, once the incident happens, it won't end until the conclusion is reached? Xiao Tan asked, following Brother Ju's train of thought. Feng Bujue replied in a low voice, according to the flow of the previous case. If Xiongji is arrested normally, the transition will happen about an hour after the end of the case. When Brother Ju said an hour, it should be an hour. Xiao Tan knew about his biological timing, so he didn't raise any questions. But if we disrupt the investigation and cover up the truth? Feng Bujue changed the topic and continued, then it's hard to say. For example, in the current situation, although I've taken down Xiongji, the peeping incident hasn't reached a conclusion, so I'm not sure what will happen next. Vroom 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 vroom. Before the two of them could finish their conversation, a burst of urgent sirens came from afar. The police are here so quickly? Xiao Tan was surprised. Maybe there's a patrol car nearby. Feng Bujue was quite calm. Brother Ju, the police are here to arrest you. Aren't you going to consider running away? Xiao Tan asked. It's okay, Feng Bujue replied. I want to test the consequences of being arrested. Don't tell me. Xiao Tan's expression suddenly changed. You want to, that's right. Feng Bujue continued righteously. If the consequences of being arrested aren't too bad, I can consider admitting to all the crimes that Xiongji committed before he does. 2 minutes later, a police car stopped outside the crime scene. The police officer who came out of the police car was the same white Labrador that arrested Xiongji last time. His name was Inyanosuk. Sir, there's an incident here. Tu Mei saw the police officer as if she had seen an acquaintance. The cat over there used a roundhouse kick to attack the bear that fell on the ground. She paused for a moment. In addition, Xiang Mei-chan was peeped on, but the culprit has not been identified yet. Understood. Inyanosuk replied. Anyway, I'll first take the cat. Wait. Feng Bujue faced the police officer who was approaching him and said loudly, "Sir, before you arrest me, there's something I have to say." "What is it?" Inyanosuk asked. "I was the one who peeped on Xiang Mei's shower." Brother Ju was very determined to admit what Xiong Ji had done. "In the process of peeping, I was also discovered by Xiang Mei-chan. In order to disrupt the search, I barked twice as I ran away, trying to make others think that the peeping Tom was a dog." As he spoke, he pointed at Xiong Ji, who had fainted on the ground. "Just now, Xiong Ji-kun had seen through my trick and tried to say it out loud. In order to prevent him from saying it out loud, I knocked him out." Well, not only did he admit to a groundless crime, but he also used it as a basis to explain the reason for kicking him out. Xiao Tan said, "Impressive, oh, I see." Tu Mei showed an expression of sudden realization. "Great, the incident has been successfully resolved." She waved her arm and snapped her fingers. No one knew how her furry hand made the sound. On the other hand, Inyanosuk was silent for a few seconds, then looked at Brother Ju and said, "So, the criminal in both cases was you?" "Yes." Feng Bujue replied calmly. "And, when your crime was exposed, your first reaction was to frame a dog?" Inyanosuk asked again with a straight face. Feng Bujue did not answer, as he was afraid that something bad would happen. "Fine." After staring at Brother Ju for a few seconds, Inyanosuk took a few steps forward and took out a rope. "If you have anything to say, come back to the station with me." "Okay." Feng Bujue did not resist at all and allowed the other party to tie his hands. Several seconds later, Inyanosuk completed the binding. He led Brother Ju away. When he passed Wang Tanji, Feng Bujue purposely lowered his voice to whisper, "I'll leave the rest to you." "Understood," Xiao Tan replied with a serious expression. "I won't let Xiong Ji get away with this." After getting the promise from his partner, Brother Ju walked toward the police car without hesitation. Under the setting sun, his back that was filled with humiliation appeared to have been through a lot. It was like he had turned himself in even though he was innocent. Due to AFK-like behavior, 30% life points and 100 skill points have been deducted. When he got into the police car, Feng Bujue heard this system announcement. Since Brother Ju entered Thriller Paradise, this was the first time that he had heard the punishment for AFK-like behavior. Even this time, he was baffled. The next day, during lunch break, before Feng Bujue could recover from the previous announcement, the sudden change happened again. Similar to last time, the scenery before his eyes changed. 1 second, he was sitting in the back seat of the police car, and the next second, he was sitting in the classroom of Animal Elementary School's 4th grade. "Brother Ju." Xiao Tan's voice came from beside him. "Are you okay?" "I'm not." Feng Bujue turned to answer. Voluntarily admitting Xiong Ji's crime will be considered AFK-like behavior, and life points and skill points will be deducted. Xiao Tan heard that and said with disappointment, "I was happy to see the quick change." "Phew." Feng Bujue gave a long sigh. "It's fine. The action earlier was experimental in nature. It's good to learn from it." He scratched his chin and said, "I think I understand the gist of this scenario now. To clear the scenario, we have to disrupt the investigation. But we can't use a brainless method like admitting to the crime first." At that moment, Xiao Tan scratched his chin and mimicked the famous detectives in the scenario. He assumed the posture of a detective and said, Based on the information that we know, once a case happens, there has to be a conclusion before we can move on. And there are only 2 conclusions. The first is that the real culprit, Xiong Ji-kun, has been exposed. The second is that we have successfully disrupted the investigation and caused the case to be closed in the wrong way. He paused for half a second. In the first case, the main mission will be headed toward failure, but we will be given 1 hour of relatively free and safe time to adjust. In the second case, the scenario will move on to the next event. At that moment, Feng Bujue widened his pair of cat eyes and looked at Xiao Tan with a half-smile. He used 6 modal particles in a row. Ho 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 ho! Chapter 781. What's wrong? Wang Tongji squinted at his brother Ju and asked. Not bad. Brother Ju said, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've already learned how to reason? What are you talking about? Xiao Tan replied loudly, but the next second, he lowered his voice again. Well, although you're calling me a bird now, I really can't refute that, haha. Feng Bujue shrugged and smiled. Actually, I wanted to say, Xiao Ling seems to have taught you a lot, hee, it's okay. Xiao Tan turned his head and smiled shyly, scratching his face with his wings. Feng Bujue looked at Xiao Tan with his dead fish eyes and said, The sour smell of love on your body has triggered the true energy in my body. I suggest you adjust your expression, or I'll have to use Miao Sex Qigong. Meow. Just as they were talking, there was a sudden scream from the other end of the classroom. TSK again? Feng Bujue looked in the direction of the scream. He saw Miao Mei crying as she ran to the back row with a letter in her hand. Tu Mei-chan. Miao Mei ran to Tu Mei's desk and said, A bad stalker wrote me a letter. What did you say? Tu Mei looked at Miao Mei and asked with concern. Xiongji, who was sitting next to Miao Mei, also came over and said with concern, How could he do such a thing to my favorite Miao Mei? Unforgivable. Well, every time this guy says something like this with righteous indignation, I'll have a, could it be that he really didn't do it this time? Feng Bujue looked at Xiongji and grumbled softly, But, the merciless reality has dealt heavy blows to my beep again and again, causing me to be in so much pain. After all, this is the world of comedy. Xiao Tan also lowered his voice and said, Xiongji's behavior is the biggest problem. Before their voices trailed off, Bunny Mei had already taken the letter from Miao Mei's hands. She opened it before her eyes and read aloud, To Miao Mei. I'm going to sneak into your room tonight, ho 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 Xiongji. After reading the letter, Tu Mei put it down quietly and took out her phone. Wait. Seeing this, Feng Bujue immediately roared and stepped forward to stop Tu Mei. What's wrong? Maotaro? Tu Mei asked. I want to confirm. Brother Ju said, Tu Mei-chan. Are you going to call the police? Yeah, Tu Mei replied. Of course, I'm going to call the police. Calling the police so recklessly before we have a clear picture of the situation. Feng Bujue's expression turned serious. He looked directly into Bunny Mei's eyes and demanded, Is that really a good idea? Tu Mei looked suspicious. She raised her head and continued, Isn't the truth of this case obvious enough? Humph. Feng Bujue was waiting for that sentence. He squeezed out a low chuckle from between his teeth and said, Looks like. The famous detective Bunny Beauty is not that great after all. The next second, before Tu Mei could say anything, Xiongji said in his usual comic book narration tone, What? How dare he say such provocative words to Tu Mei-chan? This man. Who is he? He's just a peeping Tom and a violent man. Tu Mei's tone was calm as usual. His attitude is quite arrogant. Feng Bujue couldn't refute the way she addressed him. After all, he was the one who had confessed to the crime yesterday. Fortunately, Tu Mei did not continue her human, cat, body attack. She continued, Then tell me, what other problems do you have with this case? Humph. Feng Bujue sneered and raised a finger. The first problem is the signature of this letter. What's wrong with the signature? Isn't it Xiongji? Tu Mei didn't even look at Xiongji. She said nonchalantly, Isn't it normal for him to do such perverted things? Xiongji looked aggrieved and said, No, I'm not a pervert. Although I occasionally feel inexplicably excited when I show my lower body in public, I'm not a pervert. Even if I were a pervert, I would be a gentleman with the title of a pervert. Hey, the case here hasn't been solved yet. Don't take the initiative to expose public nudity. Even Xiao Tan couldn't stand it anymore. We're trying our best to help you get out of this situation. Okay, let's not talk about things that have nothing to do with this case. Feng Bujue interrupted them and said to Xiao Tan, Son Taro, if Xiong Ji continues to talk nonsense, you'll slap his face. Yes, Wang Tongji answered seriously and immediately cast a sharp look at Xiong Ji. Under the gaze of the falcon, Xiong Ji couldn't help but take a step back. He didn't say anything for the time being. Listen carefully, Tu Mei-chan, as Feng Bujue spoke. He naturally took the letter from Tu Mei's hand. As a detective, when dealing with a case, you must consider all the details. You can't be blinded by appearances. He raised the letter and smiled. Let me ask you, is there a stalker in this world who is stupid enough to write his real name on a harassing letter? Tu Mei said thoughtfully, if there is, then it would be Xiong Ji. TSK, TSK, TSK. Feng Bujue wagged his finger, and he clicked his tongue wickedly. Bunny Mei-chan, don't prioritize individual cases. At a moment like this, we should at least consider those hypotheses that have a higher probability of success. Puji, as Brother Ju spoke, he slammed the letter on the table, but because of the pause on his paws, it didn't make a sound. Take the peeping case I committed yesterday as an example. Since I could imitate a dog barking to disrupt the search, then this time the culprit. Why couldn't he add Xiong Ji's name to the letter to frame me? So it was you who did it. After listening to Brother Ju's words, Tu Mei responded expressionlessly. She picked up her phone again and was ready to call the police. Hey, I was just using myself as an example to analyze the problem for you. How did you come to this conclusion? Feng Bujue quickly stopped her. And, you are too good at dialing with one hand. Do you like to call the police that much? Yes. Tu Mei admitted without hesitation. One of the reasons I became a detective is because I like to report cases. Let's figure out the case first before calling the police. Feng Bujue roared. Okay. Tu Mei closed her phone again. Go on. Second question. Feng Bujue looked at the letter again. Speaking of which, was this letter really sent by a stalker? He poked the letter a few times with his paws. Something like, I am going to sneak into your room tonight, could also be written by a thief, right? Hearing this, even Xiao Tan was stunned. This kind of thing is very common. Feng Bujue spread his paws and said, like the strange thieves, Chicken Virtue, the Cat-Face Sisters, and so on. Don't everyone like to send a warning letter before they take action? Which dimension are the two groups of strange thieves you are talking about? Xiao Tan's soul of disgust was obviously stirred up again. On the other hand, Bunny Mei seemed to have accepted this setting. It does seem to make sense, but what's with the huff 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 sneakily written in the trailer? It means that they are determined to get it, Feng Bujue replied without hesitation. I see. Tu Mei nodded and read. She actually believed it. At this moment, Wang Tongji's Wang Tongji had already fallen to the ground. Am I right? Feng Bujue laughed and said, compared to a sexual harassment letter written by Xiong Ji, a theft notice written by a strange thief pretending to be Xiong Ji disguised as a sexual harassment letter is obviously more logical, isn't it? This is the logic of being fed to a dog and then being eaten by the dog twice, right? Xiao Tan complained fiercely mentally. Let's just abbreviate it to ergo e luo. I understand. Tu Mei looked at Brother Bujue and said, it seems that you are not just a simple voyeur and violent man. The famous detective of Beast Elementary School, Mao Taro, really lives up to his reputation. Haha, you flatter me. Feng Bujue smiled slightly and rubbed the hair on his head. Then, let's deal with it as a theft case. Tu Mei turned to look at Miao Mei. Miao Mei-chan, you have to cooperate with the police tonight to catch the strange thief. Then, she picked up her phone again and called the police. Huh. Miao Mei was confused. Even if you say that, there is nothing in my room that would attract the attention of the strange thief, right? Miao Mei-chan. Feng Bujue's face was tense as he quickly moved to stand before Miao Mei. To protect the justice of the law and punish these despicable thieves, don't mind the details. Okay, Miao Mei answered blankly. Successfully disrupted the investigation of the stalker letter incident. Additional 200 skill points for special scenario. Increased Xiongji's hatred toward you by 2%. At that moment, 3 consecutive system announcements entered the ears of the 2 players. However, the content that they heard was different. Xiao Tan's skill points reward was 50 points, but Xiongji's hatred toward him had only increased by 1%. 3 days later, in the afternoon. Just as Feng Bujue was wondering what kind of setting was Xiongji's hatred toward him, the scene before his eyes changed. It was another sudden change, and Brother Bujue and Xiao Tan appeared side by side on the school field. This is so King tiring. Feng Bujue took a deep breath. This is so much more tiring than normal reasoning. How come I feel like this is just nonsense? Xiao Tan added. Feng Bujue glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and revealed a wicked smile. Okay then. I won't say anything for the next case. You'll be the one to talk. Chapter 782. Another scream interrupted their conversation. But this time, the situation was different because it was a man's scream. What's going on? Feng Bujue's expression immediately changed. Xiongji's crimes should all be against women, or perverted behavior like exhibitionism. Why? Is there a man screaming? Could it be? Wang Tongji's expression also changed abruptly. He turned to Brother Ju and said, he finally made a move on men. Let's hurry over and take a look. Brother Ju said. Okay. Xiao Tan nodded in response. In less than a minute, they jogged all the way to the place where the scream came from. It was an alley between the sporting goods warehouse and the school's outer wall. It looked like the kind of blind spot where delinquents gathered to smoke. At this time, both sides of the alley were surrounded by many teachers and students. It looked like something really happened. Brother Ju and Xiao Tan squeezed to the front of the crowd and saw. What the F***ck? Feng Bujue looked at the headless body on the ground and instinctively cursed. His words were not blocked by the system. That's. Xiao Tan also stared at the body and muttered, Aiko the penguin? Although the body's head was gone, they could still recognize him based on his body. That's right, it's Aiko the penguin. Suddenly, Tu Mei's voice came from the side. She directly followed Wang Tongji's words and said, the body shape and clothing of the deceased are the same as Aiko the penguin. Also, he's the only penguin in our animal school. You came really quickly. Feng Bujue looked at Tu Mei from the corner of his eyes, as if he did not welcome her. As a detective, it's natural to rush to the crime scene to investigate. Tu Mei replied, didn't you and Sun Taro come really quickly too? Oh, such a tense atmosphere. 2 seconds later, Xiongji's voice was heard. This guy came out of nowhere and looked at Brother Ju excitedly. This case came at the right time. We can see the reasoning duel between Tu Mei-chan and the Kitsune team. Feng Bujue, Wang Tongji, and Tu Mei all looked at Xiongji. This guy. At this moment Brother Ju looked at Xiongji. Brother Ju. His hands is still stained with blood, and he just appeared at the crime scene. Xiao Tan grumbled internally, this is not good. In his condition, even if I am willing to help him plead guilty, I might not succeed. Even though the 2 players were badly battered, Xiongji himself still acted as if he had nothing to do with the matter. Bunny Mei-chan's eyes have become sharp. When he met Bunny Mei's gaze, he continued to explain in his usual tone. That gaze means that Bunny Mei-chan is focused on the case, and her inspiration is working at a high speed. Due to this characteristic, she was nicknamed Big Eyes. Tu Mei-chan is really something. She is close to the truth of the case. After this long speech, Xiongji looked at Feng Bujue and Wang Tangji. He looked nervous and said with a fake smile, "Haha. It seems like the victory is already in Tu Mei-chan's hands. Mao Taro, Sun Taro." Xiao Tan. Feng Bujue stared at him and said coldly, "What?" Wang Tangji also replied in a lifeless tone, "We agreed just now." Brother Ju continued, "You will take care of this case. Can I beat him up first?" Xiao Tan asked. "No." Feng Bujue replied firmly, "Do you want to be taken away by the police for intentional injury, and then leave this mess to me? Don't even think about it." While they were talking in a low voice, Tu Mei had already taken out her phone to call the police. "Hello? Police station? There was a murder at Animal Elementary School," Tu Mei said to the other end of the phone. "Yes, the murderer has been found. His name is Xiongji. Okay, please come as soon as possible." Then, she hung up the phone. Not long after, the police car arrived. The police officer who came to handle the case was still Inyanosuk. After looking at the body, Inyanosuk came to Xiongji and said, "Is it you again?" I. Xiongji was just about to speak. "Wait." But a voice interrupted him. Suddenly, all the onlookers at the scene turned their heads and looked at the person who spoke. "Who the murderer is? It's not certain yet." Wang Tangji forced an unfathomable expression and shouted loudly, "Oh, well done." Feng Bujue, who was watching from the side, showed a gloating smile and thought, "Intimidating others with your imposing manner is indeed a good strategy." "What are you talking about, Sun Taro?" Tu Mei walked to Xiao Tan and pointed at Xiongji. "Look, his hands are still stained with blood, and his boots left bloody footprints." "So what?" Xiao Tan answered quickly, but he had not thought of what to say next. He could only think as he said, "Maybe he just came to the crime scene a little earlier than the others, and when he found the body, he accidentally got his hands on it." "You are quite good." Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and thought, "You can make up a story on the spot." I should be the first witness to arrive at the scene." Unexpectedly, another guy with a monkey-like face walked out at this time. When the shouting started, I was nearby. I ran over in less than 10 seconds. "Oh, it's Arakichi." Tu Mei looked at the monkey and said, "In that case, did you see anything at the time?" "At that time," Arakichi recalled as he said, "I was washing my hands at the sink behind the sporting goods warehouse. When I heard the shouting, I quickly ran over. When I ran to the opposite alley, I happened to see a black shadow. He was holding a knife in his left hand and a black object in his right hand. He ran out of the alley from the other end. So I immediately chased after him, but when I came out of the alley, the shadow was already gone." He paused for a moment. After another 10 seconds, everyone was attracted by the shouting. "That's right," Tu Mei said. "The person you saw at the time was Xiongji, who had just finished the murder." She pointed at the bloody footprints on the ground. From the footprints, after he killed Aiko the penguin, he immediately ran out of the alley and turned into the sporting goods warehouse. She looked up at the front door of the warehouse. After he threw Aiko the penguin's head and the murder weapon inside, he walked out again and blended into the crowd. F***CK. The next second, Xiao Tan shouted, F***CK. After he finished, he fell into silence again. He didn't think of a good line at all, so he decided to F***CK first. Feng Bujue was indeed Xiao Tan's best friend. He saw through the latter's behavior at a glance. "What's wrong?" Inyanosuk and Tu Mei looked at Xiao Tan almost in unison. "What do you think is the truth?" After a few seconds of quick thinking, Xiao Tan had already thought of the next step to deal with it. "Without pictures, oh no. Without physical evidence, why did you say beep?" "You're right." After Inyanosuk heard this, he agreed, but he immediately changed the topic. "It's better to search the warehouse first." As he spoke, he had already led Xiongji, For the sake of insurance, Inyanosuk had already tied Xiongji up to the sporting goods warehouse. Xiao Tan immediately panicked. He was about to be caught red-handed. "Wait for me." He quickly chased after them. A minute later, police officer Inyanosuk, suspect Xiongji, witness Yuenji, and the three famous detectives, Tu Mei, Mao Taro, and Sun Taro came to the sporting goods warehouse together. "Oh, did you leave it here?" Inyanosuk didn't spend much effort looking for it. Under the wall facing the warehouse door, he found a bloody head and a bloody knife. "Look, it was Xiongji Kun who did it." Tu Mei continued. "From here to the floor opposite the wall, you can clearly see a bloody footprint going back and forth. This is obviously—" "I got it!" Suddenly, Wang Tongji shouted and interrupted Tu Mei. "The real murderer of this case is—" He waved his wings and pointed at one of the 6 people present. Chapter 783. It's you, Yukichi. Wang Tongji pointed at the witness and shouted. "Huh!" Yukichi was stunned. What? Xiongji was also shocked. "It's you, Yukichi. Hey, you seem to have forgotten that you're the murderer." Feng Bujua looked at Xiongji and thought to himself. Only at a moment like this did he feel that Xiongji's nonsensical behavior had some effect. "What did I do?" Yukichi, who was clearly innocent, was nervous about this inexplicable accusation. He looked like he had done something wrong. "Humph!" Xiao Tan snorted and kept them in suspense. "Actually, the truth is already in front of us. Oh, I want to hear it too." Tu Mei looked at Xiao Tan expectantly. Inyanosuk said expressionlessly, "Please tell us in detail, Sun Taro classmate." 2 seconds later, Wang Tongji raised his wing and pointed. "Look!" Everyone looked at his wing and saw a skylight above the wall of the warehouse. Aiko the penguin's head and the blood-stained knife appeared below this skylight at the same time. "This is the best evidence," Xiao Tan said. "Oh, so that's how it is." At that moment, Feng Bujua added, as if he had been enlightened. Brother Ju was also amazing. When he heard this, he had already guessed what Xiao Tan was going to say. "What happened is—" Xiao Tan began to narrate. "In the afternoon, Yukichi casually made up a reason, and called Aiko the penguin to the alley between the sporting goods warehouse and the outer wall of the school. When Aiko the penguin was unprepared, Yukichi suddenly pulled out the knife. Although Aiko the penguin screamed before he died, he still couldn't escape. In the end, Yukichi cut off his head." "Hey! Wait a minute. The one with the blood on his hand is obviously Xiongji." Yukichi interrupted excitedly. "My hand is—" "Don't interrupt," Xiao Tan shouted domineeringly. "I was just about to say that." He paused for a moment and continued. "After you killed him, you knew that someone would hear the scream and rush over, so you had to immediately throw away the weapon. So, you turned around and ran in the direction behind the sporting goods warehouse. However, what you didn't expect was that Xiongji Kun was nearby at the time. He heard Aiko the penguin's scream and immediately rushed over from the direction of the warehouse and appeared at the other end of the alley." Oh! As Feng Bujua listened, he praised in his heart. "This *T is so realistic that even I am about to be convinced. In your previous testimony, there are obvious flaws." Xiao Tan continued. "You said that you saw a black shadow, with a knife in his left hand and a black object in his right hand, running out of the alley, and then you immediately chased after him." "Humph!" he snorted. "Don't you think it strange? When normal people see such a bloody murder scene, they would be scared out of their wits. But you didn't hesitate to chase after the murderer with the knife, even though you misjudged the iron? Does that make sense?" Now that you mention it." Tu Mei rubbed her chin and said, "It does make sense." GGG. Yuenji scratched his ears and cheeks. He was sweating profusely, but he didn't know how to explain. The real situation should be. Xiao Tan continued, Xiongji, who rushed to the scene, saw Aiko the penguin lying in a pool of blood. He was shocked and instinctively went forward to check. Then he accidentally stained his hands and shoes with blood. Several seconds later, out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly discovered that there was a figure holding a sharp knife and a head at the other end of the alley. He glared at Sarutobi. "That's you, Sarutobi." Is that so?" Even Xiongji himself seemed to believe it, and answered in a daze. Everyone knows about Xiongji's personality. Even though he is a madman, he is not that courageous. In fact, he is a weakling. Xiao Tan continued, when he saw the killer nearby, he naturally turned and ran. He paused for half a second and his eyes moved slightly. "And Yuanji, under such circumstances the success rate of catching up with Xiongji and killing him was not high. So, you simply ignored him and turned around to leave the alley from the other end." He raised his hand again and pointed at the window. "Outside this window is the back of the warehouse. You threw Aiko the penguin's head and the murder weapon in through that window. Then, you washed your hands at the sink behind the warehouse to wash away the blood stains on your hands." Hearing this, even Officer Inyanosuk nodded. "Oh, is this what the evidence means?" Xiao Tan nodded at the police officer, then looked at Yuanji and said, "After doing this, you passed through the alley and appeared at the other end of the sports warehouse. You met up with the crowd who heard the noise and pretended to be the first witness who rushed to the scene." He snorted coldly. "Humph. You are indeed very cautious. When you passed through the alley, you deliberately avoided the blood stains around the body. But don't you think that passing through such a narrow alley without stepping on a drop of blood in itself is an anomaly? Let me ask, in the face of such a bloody murder scene, who else would be so calm and meticulous other than the murderer?" "That's right." At this time, Feng Bujue suddenly picked up where Xiao Tan left off. He looked at Sarutobi and said, "And the real first witness, Xiongji, after he was scared away by you, he ran away in a panic. As soon as he ran out of the alley, he turned into the sports warehouse." He raised his cat paw and pointed at Xiongji. "He came in from the front door and kept running in. Unexpectedly, when he reached the wall, he saw a bloody penguin head and a knife fall from a high window. Seeing this scene, he must have been shocked again. Then, he turned around and ran out, meeting us outside. Brother Ju was indeed a good teammate. His timely assistance also explained the bloody footprints on the warehouse floor, making up for the last flaw in Xiao Tan's theory. Inyanosuk let go of Xiongji and walked to Yuanji. "Do you have anything else to say?" "Gigi." "This." Yuanji was sweating profusely as he sat on the ground. He was so wronged that he could not say a complete sentence. "Amazing, Sun Taro." Tumei looked at Xiao Tan and said, "This reasoning duel. I lost. I didn't expect you to find the real murderer so easily." "Ha. Ha ha." Xiao Tan wiped the sweat from his temples. You flatter me." 5 minutes later, Inyanosuk escorted Yuanji into the police car. Xiongji, Tumei, Brother Ju, and Xiao Tan watched the police car slowly drive away, each with a meaningful expression. "Brother Ju, I was wrong." Wang Tanji turned his head and whispered to Feng Bujue, "This is definitely more difficult than normal reasoning." He was very cultured, but he inadvertently cursed. "Probably half dead from exhaustion." Feng Bujue answered. "More than half dead. His blood vessels are about to burst." Xiao Tan replied, "The next case." "No, all the cases after this will be handled by you," he said with a serious expression. "If this happens a few more times, even if my IQ can withstand it, my moral bottom line is about to be broken. Isn't it just a monkey?" Feng Bujue said nonchalantly, "At most, he will be sent to the clinic. What else can he do?" "Yes. That's your attitude." Xiao Tan continued, "This kind of, it's not that your bottom line is very low, but you don't know what it is. You're nonchalant about the tragedy you created, and when necessary, you can even use someone else's ashes to pickle vegetables. Spirit. I can only look at it but not reach it. Hearing this, Feng Bujue was silent for 2 seconds, then said, Have you seen cartoons about cats and birds? Xiao Tan thought for a while. Cui Di and the Dumb Big Cat? If I were the screenwriter, it would be Mao Taro's Falcon Cooking Classroom, Feng Bujue said. Understood. Xiao Tan swallowed and stopped talking. At the same time, the transfer had arrived. Chapter 784. 1 week later, during the self-study class. Following the announcement, Feng Bujue and Wang Tongji found themselves in a different environment. They were originally standing, but now they were sitting down, returning to their seats in the classroom. Both of them knew that after successfully stopping Xiongji from being arrested, there was not much time left for them to communicate. Therefore, after the transfer, they quickly exchanged information about the system announcement and came up with some analysis. Successfully disrupted the investigation into the death of Aiko the penguin. Extra 400 skill points for special scenario. Increased Xiongji's hatred toward you by 3%. These 3 announcements were the ones that Wang Tongji heard when Yuanji was arrested. At the same second, Feng Bujue heard a similar announcement. However, this time, Brother Ju only received 50 skill points, and Xiongji's hatred toward him only increased by 1%. Combining this with the previous system announcement, 2 patterns could be found. 1. The more effort one put into the investigation, the more thorough the investigation would be, and the more skill points one would gain. 2. The more effort one put into helping Xiongji get out of jail, the more hatred points one would gain from Xiongji. There haven't been any cases recently. This is so boring. Just as Brother Ju and Xiao Tan were about to start a discussion about Xiongji's hatred toward Xiongji, Tu Mei's voice suddenly came from behind them. Since Xiongji and Tu Mei were sitting 1 row behind the 2 players, their conversation could be heard clearly. Why don't you pull your head off to take a look, Xiongji-kun? When Tu Mei said the second half of the sentence, her tone was very even. She did not sound like she was joking. No. I don't want to. Xiongji grumbled, his face covered in sweat. What kind of case is this? Then go to a random corner of the school and turn into a white skeleton, Tu Mei said again. No. You'll die. Xiongji replied with an aggrieved expression. Then let's mummify him. Tu Mei did not seem to get the point in Xiongji's words at all. She continued, Mummies should be fine, right? You just need to transform your upper body. I've never heard of that kind of mummy. Xiongji roared. Hey everyone, please pay attention. At this moment, Mr. Panda appeared on the podium and said to the class in a loud voice, It's said that there are exhibitionists around the school recently. If anyone encounters them, please report to me immediately. You. Look. Tu Mei-chan, Xiongji said to Tu Mei, as if he had found a life-saving straw. It's a shameless case of exhibitionists. Exhibitionists. Tu Mei turned her head calmly and looked at Xiongji. Could it be you? No. Xiongji put on an innocent look and waved his hand to deny it. Don't push the blame onto me. Don't be like this, it's very rude. At this moment, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan both shouted the same line in their hearts. Rude my *SS. It was you. Yesterday's victim was Miao Mei. Mr. Panda said from the podium as he took a step to the right. He raised his hand and said, Miao Mei, tell us about the situation. Unknowingly, Miao Mei was already standing at the edge of the podium, which was where the teacher was pointing at. After getting the teacher's permission, she said in a slightly soft voice, Yesterday after school, Xiongji-juan was naked and smiling evilly as he followed me all the way to my door. Before she finished speaking, Tu Mei's eyes became sharp. The focus of her eyes naturally shifted to Xiongji again. TSK. It's me again. Xiongji's innocent face suddenly became perverted. I can't help it. He even smiled. Please. The words please contained too much information, of course. Even if he didn't say anything, Tu Mei would have called the police without hesitation. Wait. Faced with this development, Feng Bujue couldn't just sit back and watch. He suddenly turned his head and said to Tu Mei, "Are you going to call the police?" Tu Mei-chan. Tu Mei stopped dialing, looked up at Brother Ju and said, "Call the police?" She paused for a moment. "Are you still going to say that Xiong-ji is innocent?" "That's right." Feng Bujue's expression was serious as he nodded. "No way." Even Xiao Tan felt that he was losing his confidence. He thought to himself, his perverted behavior has been exposed on the spot. How can he get away with it? Then I'd like to hear it. Tu Mei put down her phone and asked curiously, "What kind of reasoning do you have?" "Teacher." At this time, Brother Ju suddenly stood up, waved his cat paw, and pointed at the teacher. "Can I say a few words to the class?" "Sure." Panda replied calmly, "Since this is a self-study class, you can come up and say it. Then I won't stand on ceremony." Feng Bujue smiled and walked up to the podium without any fear. He stood behind the podium and placed his hands on the table. Without saying a word, he used his peep eyes to scan the entire classroom of people. That aura, he was more like a teacher than a real teacher. "Everyone," Brother Ju spoke after a moment, "may I ask, have you ever had such an experience?" He continued with a burning gaze. "When you are fully focused on something, you will ignore all the irrelevant details." "Yes." In the classroom, only one falcon responded with the fastest and loudest voice. The rest of the students were silent. "Very good." Feng Bujue replied, "What I want to say is, yesterday, Xiong-ji Kun experienced such a situation." He raised his finger and pointed at Xiong-ji, just like Rodin, Archimedes, and Diogenes. When they are focused on something, even the threat of death will be ignored. So, he was so focused on following her that he forgot to put on his clothes? Tu Mei added. Maotaro. Panda continued, "Even if it is as you said, Xiong-ji-kun forgot to put on his clothes, stalking is perverted behavior." "No, no." Feng Bujue shook his head and replied, "Teacher, you've all misunderstood Xiong-ji-kun. He wasn't stalking Miao Mei, he was protecting her." "What the?" Xiao Tan, who was sitting in the classroom, was shocked. This kind of twisted logic. Is it valid? Just as you said, there have been exhibitionists around the school recently. On the podium, Brother Ju continued to speak. This rumor has been known for a long time, so when the female students come home from school alone, they must be worried. As Feng Bujue spoke, he turned to look at Miao Mei. "Miao Mei-san, about this. I'm right? You're right." Miao Mei nodded. "Okay, let's look at Xiong-ji-kun." Feng Bujue pointed at Xiong-ji. "As we all know, he has a tendency to be an exhibitionist." "Why do I feel like it's more than just a tendency?" Tu Mei whispered. "Don't interrupt, Tu Mei-chan." Feng Bujue used very fast words to stop the man from arguing. As someone who has the tendency of exhibitionism, Xiong-ji-jun should be able to understand the mentality of exhibitionism the best. Therefore, he felt that he should make use of his unique advantage to make some contributions to his fellow student. So, he's a psychopath with a sense of social responsibility. Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes and squeezed these words out from between his teeth. He really felt uncomfortable if he didn't say this out loud. Driven by this sense of responsibility, Xiong-ji-kun decided. Feng Bujue spoke with an impassioned and righteous tone, to take the initiative to protect the female students walking home alone. He looked at Xiong-ji and said loudly, "Right? Xiong-ji-kun." Xiong-ji was stunned by the question. Yes, right? "The truth is out," Feng Bujue said. "This is the reason why Xiong-ji-kun followed Miao Mei home." The sneer on his face was probably just a simple smile. Because he wasn't wearing any clothes, it was misunderstood as an evil smile. As for why he was naked, that was because he was thinking about how to deal with the exhibitionist, and without realizing it, he forgot to put on his clothes. That's impossible. Wang Tongji's bird face was flustered, and he thought to himself, even if this is a universe filled with absurdities and absurdities, it shouldn't be so easy to get away with something like that, right? Xiao Tan was not wrong, but Xiongji-kun, is that what happened? After hearing what Brother Bujua had to say, Miao Mei's expression shifted slightly. She turned to Xiongji and said, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Not bad, Xiongji-kun. I'm impressed. Tu Mei also turned around to compliment Xiongji. Several seconds later, there was applause in the classroom. It looked like the whole class had accepted this setting. Successfully disrupted the investigation of stalking by exhibitionist incident. Additional 200 skill points obtained from the special scenario. Xiongji's hatred toward you increased by 5%. The system announcement entered the ears of the two players. This time, the skill points that Feng Bujua gained were the same as the ones that he had gained from the stalker incident, but Xiongji's hatred toward him had greatly increased. On Xiao Tan's side, he did not gain any skill points or hatred points. He only heard the system announcement that the investigation had been disrupted. How is that even possible? That was Wang Tongji's first reaction when he heard the system announcement. How is that even possible? Even Feng Bujua thought that his own words were a bit too crappy, and he thought to himself, these people are no different from the people in South Park. Just as they thought that they were about to change the scene again, suddenly, the system announcement that appeared for the first time said, due to successfully disrupting 3 investigations, side quest has been triggered. Chapter 785. There's a side mission? Both of them called out the game menu at the same time. Assist Tu Mei in solving the murder case without a corpse appeared on the mission panel. 2 days later, in the suburbs. 2 seconds later, the scene changed again. Blue sky, white clouds, green grass, and green mountains. The scenery around them had the style of a primary school student, and Feng Bujua and Wang Tongji, in the form of humanized cats and falcons respectively, blended into the picture. On a sunny afternoon, Tu Mei, Xiongji, Miao Mei, Mao Taro, and Sun Taro, these 5 friends, agreed to have a picnic in the suburbs. However, what awaited them was, this side mission had a corresponding introduction. What's going on? Xiao Tan turned to look at his brother Ju and asked, Sai, didn't the system say it very clearly? Feng Bujua sighed. Because we disrupted the investigation 3 times, a side mission was triggered. Could it be? After this, every time we help Xiongji get off the hook 3 times, there will be a side mission? Xiao Tan asked. Who knows? Feng Bujua said. Maybe the side mission will only come once, or maybe, starting from the 3rd time, every time we solve a case, a side mission will be triggered. Or maybe it's just as you said. Every time we disrupt the investigation, a side mission will be triggered. He shrugged. Anyway, we have to wait until the 2nd side mission is triggered before we can confirm the pattern. Xiao Tan nodded. Speaking of which, Brother Ju. He seemed to have thought of something and said, since it's a side mission, according to the game's settings, even if we can't complete it, it won't affect us passing the game, right? That's right. Feng Bujua replied. This is the basic principle, so it's okay for us to just be a bystander for this mission. He paused for half a second and said, of course, it's best if we can finish it. That way, we'll get more rewards after we pass the game. Xiao Tan heard this and lowered his head. Based on the information we have now, we can speculate that the murderer in this mission is definitely not Xiongji. Feng Bujua revealed a look of praise and said with a smile, Why don't you tell me how you came to that conclusion? Xiao Tan thought as he replied, since it's a mission, the 2 missions can't contradict each other. Since one of our main missions is to limit Xiongji's number of arrests to 10, the real culprit of helping Tu Mei solve the case of the murder without a corpse is definitely not Xiongji, or else it would violate this principle. Correct reasoning. Feng Bujue said, the key is, you came to this conclusion very quickly. It seems like you've been training recently. Hee. Xiao Tan smiled. You flatter me. Since you were young, I've been guiding you and teaching you, but you're still like a fool. Feng Bujue's next sentence changed the topic and started to mock him. Xiao Ling, on the other hand, she only tortured you for a few months and you've already learned how to answer first. He paused. It seems like you're AB** starred. Hey, why didn't the system block your words? Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes. Maybe the system thinks I'm right, Feng Bujue replied. The system thinks I'm AB** starred too. Xiao Tan didn't know why, but as he complained, he looked up at the sky. The two of them stood there and chatted for a few minutes. Then, they saw two familiar figures coming from afar. Mao Taro, Sun Taro. Miao Mei waved and greeted them from 10 meters away. Tu Mei was right beside her, walking side by side with her. Even though they were out on vacation, their clothes were completely the same as when they were in school. Even the school bags on their shoulders were the red school backpack. Today, Miao Mei was still wearing a light green dress with a red bow on her right ear. Bunny Beauty was also wearing the same green shirt and pink skirt. The only thing that changed was the words on her clothes. The words on the front of Bunny Beauty's shirt changed frequently. Every time she appeared, there would be words such as beast, meat, soil, ankle, and so on that were full of unclear meanings. Sorry to keep you waiting, Tu Mei said to Brother Ju and Xiao Tan as they walked closer. Then, she turned her head and looked around. Xiongji-kun isn't here yet? I don't see him, Feng Bujue replied. Then, he said to Xiao Tan, Sun Taro, take a look with your eagle eye. What eagle's eye? Assassin's Creed. Isn't it just a normal sight for me? Even though he was grumbling, Xiao Tan still stood on his tiptoes and looked around. He was just looking around, but he didn't expect to actually see him. Ah, I see him. He's about 1 kilometer away from here. Xiao Tan looked in a direction and said, Oh. Tu Mei responded, then let's go. Don't we need to wait for Xiongji? Tu Mei-chan, Miao Mei asked. He's just a pervert. It's better if he doesn't come, Tu Mei replied. Then why did you ask where he is the moment you arrived? Feng Bujue asked. Okay. Let's go. Tu Mei ignored Brother Ju's complaints as she held Miao Mei's hand and walked forward. 15 minutes later. Ha! Xiongji finally caught up with the four of them. This is too much. Everyone. They had clearly agreed to set off together. Luckily, we're on a plane and I saw you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that you guys were gone. Beep beep beep. Before Xiongji could finish, his phone rang. It was Tu Mei calling the police. In the silence, 4 different gazes looked at Xiongji. These 4 types of gazes were either sharp, awkward, pained, or like a dead fish. Hey! Why are you calling the police again? Xiongji, who was half naked and wearing a pink bra, looked at Tu Mei and asked, What did I do? You miscalculated. Feng Bujue shook his head and said, I almost forgot. During the process of the side mission, the main mission will not stop. In other words, during the process of completing the murder without a corpse case, we still have to be on guard against Xiongji's perverted behavior? Xiao Tan asked. Sigh. Fine. Feng Bujue sighed. On the bright side, in this case, we still have a chance to stop Xiongji before he commits any crimes. Chapter 786. Facing Tu Mei's sharp eyes, Xiongji said incoherently, Could it be no, this is, where did you steal it from, you pervert? You perverted bear. Tu Mei looked at her phone in disgust, and said to Xiongji from the corner of her eyes. Don't call the police. This is my own thing. Xiongji replied, "Is there a law that says I can't wear my own bra outside?" He frowned and put on a serious expression. "Besides, although I'm a pervert, I'm not a pervert." "You're actually comparing a pervert and a pervert, it's really unbelievable." "Even if I'm a pervert, I'm just a pervert who's labeled as a pervert." Tu Mei broke out in a cold sweat. Her mouth twitched and she said, "So, isn't that the worst kind of scum?" She curled her lips. "But, since you're wearing a bra that you bought yourself, it means that there's no victim, which means, this is not an incident." Yeah. Xiongji replied. Feng Bujue and Wang Tangji also chimed in. That's right, as long as you bought it yourself, there's no problem." "How could there be no problem?" Tu Mei continued. "Indeed, this isn't an incident, but, as a man, walking around in public wearing a bra is undoubtedly immoral. I still want to call the police." "Tu Mei-chan, although what you said makes sense," Xiongji interrupted in a deep voice. "But, if you're called to the police just because you're wearing a bra that you bought yourself, don't you think that the world has already lost the so-called personal freedom? The public security regulations exist to restrict the freedom of perverts like you." Tu Mei held her phone and smiled. "Besides, I'd just like to call the police, can't I?" "I beg you, please stop," Xiongji added. "Every time you call the police over such trivial matters, it's like, you can't show your underwear except in the bathroom and at home. Isn't that obvious?" Xiao Tan was shocked as he listened to this godlike conversation. He thought to himself, "What is the world in your perverted brain like?" "Enough, Xiongji." At this time, Feng Bujue had already taken action. King, shut up." He cursed and pulled off Xiongji's bra. Xiongji was startled when he saw this, but he only let out a cry and did not resist. "All right." Brother Ju took the pink bra and turned to Tu Mei and Miao Mei, saying, "He has already taken off his bra." He pointed at Xiongji and said, "It's summer now. It's normal for a boy to carry a backpack without clothes on his upper body." Since you said so, Mao Taro." Tu Mei thought for a moment and put down her phone. Then, she looked at Xiongji and said, "How about this? I won't call the police for the time being. Today, I'll observe your behavior and attitude during the outing. If you're honest and serious, I won't send you to the clinic." "Clinic?" Xiongji asked curiously. "Isn't it the police station?" 30 minutes later, the 5 of them headed north, and before they knew it, they had already walked a few kilometers. Brother Ju, Xiao Tan, who had excellent eyesight, seemed to have noticed something. He quietly turned sideways and whispered to Feng Bujue, "At 11 o'clock, about 1.2 kilometers away, there's a group of people gathered together. Roger that." Feng Bujue responded, then continued, "That's most likely the crime scene. Don't tell anyone about it. Let's get closer and see what's going on." When he said this, his eyes were fixed on Xiongji, who was in front of them. It seemed that he was more worried that Xiongji would be caught red-handed for committing a crime. After walking for a while, they soon arrived at the vicinity of the group of figures. "Ah, it's Police Officer Inyanosuk," Miao Mei said as she looked in the direction of the group of people. As Inyanosuk was wearing a police uniform, and his fur was white, even animals with poor eyesight could recognize him from afar. "Did something happen here?" Xiongji said excitedly. "Let's go and take a look," Tu Mei said. So, before Brother Ju and Xiao Tan said a word, everyone was already heading in that direction. At that moment, there were a total of 4 people and a horse standing on the grassland. The horse was a white horse with a saddle. The people were the following 4. The first one was the familiar police officer Inyanosuk. The second one was a bald monk wearing an orange cassock. The third one was a human-faced monkey spirit with a red scarf around his neck and a golden headband. The fourth one was a hippopotamus spirit with green skin and wearing a blue ancient costume. When he got close, Feng Bujue got a good look at the faces of these people. At that moment, his balls hurt even more. "So, it's you guys," 2 seconds later, Brother Ju lowered his head and held his forehead. He thought to himself, by the way, you guys are from the same universe as Xiongji. So, the sun and the universe are interconnected. Before Feng Bujue could catch up with the terrible situation, Tu Mei had already stepped forward to talk to him. Police Officer Inyanosuk, what happened here? Oh, it's Tu Mei-chan. Inyanosuk turned around and looked at the 5 children. Something happened here. See, Tu Mei-chan, it's really something, Xiongji said. What kind of thing is it? Police Officer Inyanosuk. At this time, Feng Bujue also walked forward and put on a serious expression. He asked, if it's convenient, tell us. Perhaps we can be of help. Oh, Xiongji cheered. We can see the long-awaited reasoning duel between famous detectives again. If the murderer isn't you, it should be more like a duel, Xiao Tan whispered. On the other side, Inyanosuk thought for a few seconds and looked at Tu Mei and Brother Ju. This morning, the station received an anonymous call. The informant said that he witnessed a murder. The crime scene was about 10 kilometers away from here by a stream. He paused. According to the informant's description, he saw a human, a monkey, and a kappa attack a pig together. Then, they fled west with a white horse. Then, he glanced at the 3 people behind him. So, I followed them on foot and happened to meet these 3 people. Chapter 787. Officer, if you want to arrest him, please arrest him first. You can tell that he's not a good person just by looking at him. At this moment, the monk in the Kasaya spoke. He pointed at the kappa next to him without hesitation, ready to betray his teammate. Hey! The kappa didn't react much. He just turned to look at the monk and said coldly, as a master, don't you feel ashamed to betray your disciple when you're in trouble? Cut the crap. The monk shouted and continued to talk to Inyanosuk. Officer, I have nothing to do with this person. You have to believe me. He widened his eyes and stepped forward to grab Inukazuk's hands. I am the famous Master Sanzang. A monk doesn't lie. Ha ha. Inyanosuk laughed dryly. I'm also the Prince of Shengda. Save it. He pushed the man away. If you suddenly touch me again, I'll bite you to death and write assaulting a police officer in the report. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been born. Sanzang lowered his head and admitted his mistake. He actually admitted his mistake. Xiao Tan, who was watching from the side, was humiliated by this guy. He couldn't help but mutter, this guy is really shameless. But, from their appearance, could these guys really be? Ah, that's right. Feng Bujue took 2 steps back and moved closer to Xiao Tan. He whispered, these 3 guys are Sanzang and his disciple from the sun and the universe. Xiao Tan had never read about their story, so he was confused. So, that monk is Sanzang, the monkey is Wukong, and the kappa is Wujing? Yes. Brother Ju nodded. Where did Beiji go? Xiao Tan asked again. They ate him. Feng Bujue quickly replied in a calm tone. Xiao Tan didn't seem to have heard clearly. He was stunned for a moment. What did you say? Feng Bujue shrugged. Didn't Inyanosuk say it very clearly? A human, a monkey, and a kappa attacked a pig together, and then they ran away with a white horse to the west, I say. What kind of world is this? Wang Tanji felt as if his childhood had been ruined. I thought it was supposed to be funny. Why do I feel like the stories here are so dark? Stay calm. Feng Bujue said, although there are a lot of very scary plots when you think about it calmly, it's still quite funny at first glance. What you said is the opposite. Xiao Tan said. From the tone to the content, everything is the opposite. While the 2 of them were talking, the Wukong, opposite them, had already walked up to Inyanosuk. He said with a straight face, Mr. Police Officer, how can you believe an anonymous report? Maybe someone just doesn't like us, so they casually made up a so-called murder case to frame us. That's right. Haha. When Sanzang heard this, his face lit up with joy. He immediately put on a smug expression and said to Inyanosuk, "They said we attacked Beiji, but where's the evidence?" When Inyanosuk heard this, he took out a small notebook that he always carried with him and jotted down a few words. "The victim's name is Beiji? What a big idiot!" Wujing looked at Sanzang's back and added a sarcastic remark coldly. "Shut up, you traitor!" Sanzang turned around and shouted, "Your master just let it slip. At a time like this, we have to be united." While they were arguing, Inyanosuk seemed to have thought of another idea. He spoke again to Inyanosuk. "Mr. Police Officer, there was a man called Beiji who was traveling with the three of us, but he left alone this morning. We don't know where he went." "Is that so?" Inyanosuk muttered suspiciously. "Ha!" At this time, Fong Bujue strode forward and laughed coldly. "He left alone?" He repeated what the other party said, his tone full of disdain. "All right then. Tell me, what did he say to you before he left?" "He said." Wukong was about to answer. "Wait!" Fong Bujue shouted and interrupted him. One by one, he pointed at Officer Inunosuk and said, "Please, the three of you, take turns. And whisper what Beiji said before he left to Officer Inunosuk." As soon as he said this, the three people's expressions changed abruptly. "What's wrong? Is there any problem?" Brother Ju saw the change in their expressions and smiled. "You're feeling guilty, aren't you?" "It's fine." Unexpectedly, Wujing quickly regained his composure and replied in a calm tone. He then gave Wukong and Sanzang a look. "Just tell the truth." 3 minutes later, the interrogation ended. "Officer, did they all say the same thing?" Fong Bujue asked as he looked at Inyanosuk, who was walking back from afar. Obviously, Brother Ju felt a little uneasy when he saw Wujing's calm attitude just now. "It's not the same," Inyanosuk replied. "Aha!" Fong Bujue immediately turned to look at Sanzang and his disciples. "Now, what else do you have to say?" However, what greeted him were 3 sneering and complacent faces. Brother Ju was stunned when he saw this. He turned to look at Inyanosuk. Inyanosuk continued, "Although they said different things, the meaning is similar." He paused for 2 seconds and recounted. "As for what Beiji said before he left, Sanzang's version is, wait, stop, don't eat me. I really don't taste good. I taste like horse dung, really." He raised his claw and pointed at Wukong. "Wukong's version is, why are you 3 looking at me and whispering to each other? Stop. It feels so weird." He then pointed at Wujing. "Wujing's version is, I say, don't eat me? Which part tastes good? Stop making such dark jokes." "It's not a joke. He ate him. He really ate Beiji." Before Inyanosuk could finish, Xiao Tan was already shocked. After he finished narrating the 3 sentences, Xiao Tan roared, "And it feels like it was premeditated for a long time." "No, no, no." Wujing looked at Xiao Tan and shook his head. "Beiji just left. We didn't do anything to him." "That's right," Wukong added. "He was just afraid of being eaten by us, so he left." Humph, humph, humph. Among the 3, Sanzang was the most despicable. At this moment, he was also smiling the most proudly. "That's it. Can we leave now, officer?" "Hey. It's such an obvious case of murder, pig eating. You can't possibly let them go, right?" Xiao Tan said loudly to Inyanosuk. "Of course." Inyanosuk replied, then looked at the 3 and said, "You guys are quite bold. After making such a confession, do you still think you can leave?" "That's right." Even Xiongji shouted with righteous indignation, "Look, Tu Mei-chan's eyes have become sharp." In such an atmosphere, among all the people present, only one showed a serious expression. When Fong Bujue watched the Japanese, he still had a deep impression of the story Journey to the West, The Journey's End. To be honest, this story was extremely scary. If one didn't read it carefully, they might not understand. If one looked at it more seriously, they might find it funny. But if one thought about it more deeply, it would make one's scalp tingle. Why did the seemingly harmonious master and disciple trio show all kinds of morbid persistence when they reached the finish line of India? Why was Sanzang still able to walk as if he was flying even though his butt was smashed twice by the wishbone and was covered in blood? Why did Sanzang not chant the golden hoop when Sun Wukong was clearly wearing it? Why was Wu Jing's mouth full of sharp teeth when they were both monsters? But Sun Wukong didn't. Why did their faces change at specific times? Why was Sanzang, a human, able to drop extremely long claws in the end? Could these physiological changes be related to the fact that they had eaten Beiji? If they only ate their companions because of hunger, why didn't they eat the white horse? Finally, at the end, was Beiji, who was the first to pass the finish line, a soul? Or was it an illusion? What's going on? Feng Bujua looked at the three people opposite him and thought quickly. Their fearless attitude. What are they going to do? His expression changed slightly. Are they going to use force to escape? With that in mind, Brother Ju immediately tried to remember what kind of powers Sanzang and his disciple had in the Japanese world. But these three are just the scumbag master and disciple from the comic. They probably have nothing to do with the real journey to the West. If I'm not mistaken, their powers are: Wu Jing's shoes are extraordinarily long, Sanzang's hat can be lengthened, Wukong's club can be lengthened, and the three of them can extend their fingernails to become very long claws. He thought for a moment and rejected this speculation. It shouldn't be. If they wanted to make a move, they would have done it long ago. Before we came here, they were 3 against 1. The success rate at that time must be higher than now. Thinking of this, he muttered, could it be the method they are going to use is, it seems. Mr. Officer, you still don't understand. At this moment, Wukong spoke. In this world, how could anyone kill and eat their companions? As he spoke, he looked at Xiongji, who was several meters away. For example, the bear over there. Would you eat the rabbit next to you? Xiongji's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Why would I do something so terrible? Haha, that's right. Wu Jing continued, this kind of thing obviously goes against common sense. Besides, even if we did have evil intentions towards Beiji, would we talk about it so openly in front of him? Xiao Tan. When he heard this, Feng Bujue tilted his head and whispered into Xiao Tan's ear, can you see it? These 3 guys are doing what we did before. Chapter 788. That's why our actions are clearly just acting. Sanzang took over from his 2 disciples and continued confidently, actually, the truth is very simple. The 3 of us don't really like Bajie, so we've always wanted to chase him away. But this guy is too slow, so he didn't realize our ill intentions at all. So we pretended to want to eat him up, and brazenly showed it in front of him, hoping to scare him away. After a period of preparation, this morning, our plan finally succeeded, Wukong said quickly. Wukong quickly continued, at the stream we approached Bajie step by step, acting as if we were going to eat him. That idiot finally got scared, turned around, and ran away, never to return. Now that I think about it, that anonymous police call was most likely made by Bajie himself, right? Wu Jing added, after he was chased away by us, he vaguely sensed the truth. Holding a grudge, he used this method to take revenge. Ha ha! Sanzang laughed arrogantly. Do you understand now? Mr. Police Officer, there's no such thing as an incident here. Even if there is, it's just a false police report incident, and the culprit is not us. That makes sense. At this time, Tu Mei's sharp gaze had returned to normal. She rubbed her chin and said, in this sparsely populated outskirts, the probability of there being a witness nearby when the crime was committed is very low. Also, it's strange to report an incident anonymously. See, even that little girl with terrible eyes said so. Sanzang pointed at Tu Mei and said to Inyanosuk, "Can we go now?" Inyanosuk nodded slightly, seemingly hesitant. Suddenly, Brother Ju laughed loudly and looked at Inyanosuk. "Police officer Inyanosuk, do you really believe what they said?" This was not a question at all, so he did not wait for Bajie to answer. He turned to Tu Mei and said, "And Tu Mei-chan, as a detective, is it really okay to let a guilty person go just like that? What the—" Hearing this, Sanzang, Wukong, and Wu Jing all looked at Brother Ju. Sanzang immediately gritted his teeth and glared at Feng Bujue. "I say, that kid who looks like a cat, you've been up to no good since just now. What's the meaning of this? Cut the crap, you baldy." Feng Bujue put one paw on his waist and pointed at Sanzang. "Do you think you can get away with it? That does seem to work." Xiao Tan could not help but grumble internally. "Haven't the two of us helped Xiongji escape punishment 3 times already? What? You despicable brat! How dare you call me bald?" Sanzang shouted in a frenzy. "This old monk's hair is shaved, it's not shed. Why would you care about that kind of thing?" Wu Jing said coldly, "In the end you all become bald." Before he finished speaking, Sanzang had already waved his arm and pointed at him. "If you want to talk about baldness, that kappa over there is the real baldy. Hey! Kappa was born with this hairstyle." Wu Jing, who was still calm, suddenly changed his expression and shouted at Sanzang, "From Kappa's point of view, my hair is still very thick. You obviously care about it too, and this kind of sophistry is too childish." Wukong narrowed his eyes and looked at his 2 companions. His red scarf was already messed up in the wind. "Shut up, you stinky monkey." The next second, Wu Jing turned to Wukong and said, "You are obviously a monk too. Why are you the only one with hair all over your head? It doesn't make sense no matter how you think about it." After you reminded me." Sanzang also turned to look at Wukong, revealing a covetous look. "Even Beiji is bald. Why is a stinky monkey like you an exception?" "Because I'm a monkey, you bastard," Wukong said in shock. "Isn't it natural for a monkey to have hair all over his body? You don't have to explain." When Sanzang said this, he had already taken out a razor from somewhere. "There's no time to lose. I'll help you get rid of the 3,000 strands of worry now." "Hey, what are you doing?" Wukong panicked and his face was filled with horror. "Wu Jing, help me catch him." Sanzang saw that Wukong was about to run, so he quickly called for his teammates to help. Wu Jing's movements were indeed fast. Before his master could finish speaking, he had already clamped down on Wukong's hands from behind. "Stop! Stop!" Wukong struggled and shouted, "Bastard! You 2 baldies are actually on the same side and attacking the same person. Officer, you saw it all, right?" Seeing this scene, Feng Bujue walked over to Inyanosuk's side expressionlessly and said, "Facts speak louder than words. These 3 guys are born with serious violent tendencies. They will draw their swords and fight over the slightest thing. Moreover, they don't care if the other party is their partner at all. Or rather, the more they are partners, the more they have no scruples." Inyanosuk nodded and said, "That makes sense." At this time, Tu Mei's eyes became sharp again. As expected of Mao Taro, he easily exposed their true nature. Otherwise we would have all been fooled. So scary. Violence is the worst. Miao Mei covered her eyes and screamed. Xiongji walked over and said, "Miao Mei-chan, don't be afraid, come into my arms. You'd better know your place." Xiao Tan was quick to react. He leaped forward and blocked Xiongji's path, stopping the latter's suicidal attempt before it was too late. On the other side, when they saw everyone's reaction, the master and disciple trio panicked again. "Hey! Wait, we are just fooling around. Yes. That's right, we are always fooling around like this. But this time, Inyanosuk wouldn't give them another chance. He stepped forward and took out the rope. All right, if you have anything to say, follow me to the police station. Wait a minute. Seeing this, Wu Jing, who was the calmest among the three of them, was still struggling. Officer, no matter how suspicious our words and actions are, it doesn't make sense to arrest us just based on an anonymous phone call and presumption. Well said. Sanzang was excited again. Where is the evidence? Where is the decisive evidence? You guys. At this moment, the wretched Xiongji stepped forward with a righteous face and shouted, What evidence? I have hundreds of arrest experience, and I have never made such a request. Facing the result of arrest calmly is a real gentleman. Where did this naked bear come from? He has been there since just now. He seems to be a pervert. Have we been taught a lesson by a pervert? It seemed that even the three of them didn't care about Xiongji. The three of you. Don't be too arrogant. At this moment, Tu Mei suddenly stepped forward and stared at them with a scary look. How dare you look down on Xiongji-kun's rich arrest experience? She was murderous. Hurry up and kneel down and apologize to me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been born. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for breathing the same air as you. I'm sorry. Please forgive my rudeness and give me a chance to be a pervert. They knelt down neatly and uttered these 3 sentences almost simultaneously. Of course, that stinky bear's words are just the lamentations of a pervert. It's not a point of view worth agreeing with. A second later, Tu Mei changed the topic. Evidence is indeed very important. As she said this, she took a few steps to the side and stopped in front of the white horse. Mr. Horse, may I ask if Bajie was attacked by the 3 of them? That's right. They ate Bajie, the white horse replied straightforwardly. What the? Sanzang and his disciple were shocked. So you can talk. Cats, dogs, rabbits, and bears can all talk. Monkeys and kappa can also talk. Why can't I talk? The white horse asked in a matter-of-fact tone. Tu Mei-chan, the domineering famous reasoning, the low voice of the narrator inexplicably whispered into the ears of the 2 players. Then Tu Mei snapped her fingers. Yo! The case has been successfully solved. Chapter 789. Side Quest Completed. Extra reward from the special scenario. Gain 2% of current level EXP. After Sanzang's group was escorted away by Inyanosuk, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji heard the system announcement. They opened the game menu to take a look. The quest to help Tu Mei solve the case of the murder without a body had been ticked off. From the result, it looked like the reward for this side quest was EXP and not skill points like in the main quest. Xiongji's aggro did not increase due to the case being solved. Very good, this mission is much easier than the main quest, Feng Bujue commented as he looked at the game menu. But, Brother Bujue, you're really good. When the situation took a turn for the worse, you used a simple provocation to turn the situation around, Xiao Tan said. Since I have some understanding of the original work, I have a rough idea how to deal with this character from Sun and Universe. Feng Bujue said darkly. Other than a few characters with normal intelligence and morals, like Tsing Liangkuan, Kawaii Tsing Liangkuan, Hirata Kuan, Hirata Haino, and Sister Ono, Sister Ono, most of the other characters have a certain level of comical trait. He explained seriously. In other words, when necessary, you only need to ask them in a roundabout way, and they will say or do things that are full of flaws. The so-called comical trait, huh? Xiao Tan's expression turned serious as well. Yes, it's like the urge to step on a banana peel and fall over. Feng Bujue said. Most of the characters in this world have this trait, including Tu Mei. She often casually asks Xiongji something like, "There are no cases recently, so why don't you jump off the building?" And her staring expression. These are the traits of this character. She doesn't even realize the existence of this trait, so she can't change it. Oh. Xiao Tan nodded. I think I understand why Xiongji would commit so many crimes and get arrested so often. Mao Taro, Sun Taro, it's time to go. While they were talking, Tu Mei, Miao Mei, and Xiongji had regrouped. Then, Miao Mei, who was closest to them, turned around to call them. Oh, coming, Feng Bujua answered loudly and then walked over with Xiao Tan. There is no transfer this time, Wang Tongji whispered as he walked. That means something will happen next, Feng Bujua said softly. 30 minutes later, the 5 friends came to a place with beautiful scenery, in terms of the style of this world. The place was full of flowers, water, mountains, and flowers. There was a gentle breeze, and birds were singing. It was indeed a good place to have a picnic. The 5 of them walked for a long time and were a little tired. They could rest on the grass and have a meal. Oh no. I ran too fast to catch up with everyone, and the honey in my bag flowed out. Everything is sticky now. As soon as Miao Mei spread the picnic cloth on the ground, Xiongji couldn't wait to open his backpack. But, the moment he opened it, he said this with a look of annoyance. What an idiot. Tu Mei looked at him condescendingly. Don't expect me to share the food with you. Xiongji felt wronged. Too cold, Tu Mei-chan. Okay. Xiao Tan felt sorry for Xiongji, so he patted him on the shoulder and said, I'll share some of my food with you. You're such a good person. Xiongji immediately looked at Wang Tongji with grateful eyes. Xiongji's hatred towards you 2%. At the same time, a system prompt sounded in Xiao Tan's ear. So, I can lower his aggro toward me like this. Xiao Tan thought to himself. Even though I have no idea what this aggro level means, it feels like the lower the level, the better. As he thought about it, he bent his knees and sat on the picnic cloth. He took off the backpack on his shoulder. Since the last transfer, Xiao Tan and Brother Ju had backpacks on their shoulders. Long before they met Sanzang and his disciple, the 2 of them had checked each other's backpacks. The backpacks were filled with very ordinary food. Let me see. Xiao Tan took out the items in the backpack one by one. There were 2 lunchboxes and 2 boxes of drinks. The drinks were packaged in paper boxes with straws. When Brother Ju helped Xiao Tan check his backpack earlier, he analyzed that Sun Taro's winged hand could not open the bottle cap, and its beak could not drink through the opening of the bottle, so it could only drink packaged drinks. I have 2 lunchboxes, I'll share one with you. After Xiao Tan took out the items in the backpack, he picked one up and handed it to Xiongji. Thank you so much. Xiongji was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. He took it and said, I will definitely repay your kindness. There's no need for that. Xiao Tan replied with a hollow laugh. At this moment, he suddenly felt that, even if he did not mention the various crimes that he had committed, Xiongji was quite an adorable character. Of course, this temporary favorable impression of him would soon disappear without a trace. 5 minutes later. Bunny Mei-chan, you didn't even chew the fish eggs properly before eating the black carp in one bite. Xiongji couldn't help but reveal a very difficult expression while looking at Bunny Mei's eating manners. You're eating other people's food, yet you're still commenting on other people's eating methods? Tu Mei turned her head and stared at Xiongji. Hey, Xiongji is eating my food. Xiao Tan thought, why does this guy sound like I'm eating her food? Oh yeah. Xiongji. Feng Bujua then said, since your backpack is stained by the honey, why don't you wash it by the river over there? Isn't it uncomfortable to carry it on your back? Plus, the longer this stuff is left there, the harder it is to wash it clean. That makes sense. Xiongji was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, then I'll go wash it. After saying that, he stood up, picked up the backpack on the grass, and ran towards a small river more than 10 meters away. "Brother Ju, what are you?" Xiao Tan turned his head to look at Feng Bujue and asked tentatively. "Try to minimize his contact with Tu Mei and Miao Mei." Brother Ju lowered his voice and replied, "Just in case he accidentally says something incriminating." Good idea," Xiao Tan also said in a low voice. Miao Mei-chan. On the other side, Tu Mei seemed to have noticed something and asked Miao Mei, "Why aren't you wearing socks?" "Oh." Miao Mei frowned and replied, "Actually, my house was burglarized last night." Upon hearing the word, burglarized, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan's expressions instantly became serious. Their first reaction was, "Xiong Ji must have done it. Was it a burglary case? Did you call the police?" Tu Mei continued, "Do you need me to?" "No, Tu Mei-chan," Miao Mei explained, "my socks were the only things that were stolen. Nothing else was lost." Upon hearing this, Tu Mei's eyes became sharp again. "What did you say?" she shouted and suddenly turned her head to look at Xiong Ji, who was standing far away. Then, she got up and rushed towards him. "Don't be rash." Brother Ju and Xiao Tan reacted almost at the same time and chased after her. "You perverted bear!" Tu Mei ran towards Xiong Ji and shouted. Xiong Ji, who was washing his backpack by the river, heard the sound and turned around. He was shocked. "What's wrong? What's going on?" "Yesterday, a burglar snuck into Tu Mei's house and stole her socks," Tu Mei said as she ran. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of Xiong Ji. "Hey, what does that have to do with me? Why are you running towards me with such a suspicious expression?" Xiong Ji asked, sweating profusely. "Based on my deduction." Bunny Mei's eyes were glowing with a golden light. "There's a 500% chance that you did it, you stinky bear," she said as she stepped forward and grabbed Xiong Ji's arm. "It's on your hand. Hurry up and hand it over." "No. It wasn't me. I didn't." Xiong Ji tried to defend himself as he struggled to step back. But to his surprise, a few seconds later, the soles of his feet slipped, and with a plop, he fell into the river. Chapter 790. "Ah!" Xiong Ji screamed and fell into the river. At this moment, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji both gasped. They were afraid that Xiong Ji would be washed away by the water or drown. If that happened, they wouldn't be able to complete the main quest. "Ah! Ha! Ha!" Fortunately, Xiong Ji's head popped out of the water and he started to breathe heavily. As the river wasn't very deep and the current wasn't very fast, Xiong Ji floated up again after a few moments. "That scared me," Xiao Tan said as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Phew!" Brother Ju also sighed in relief and said, "Thankfully, he woke up in time. I almost kicked you off the cliff earlier." "Hey! Why did you do that?" Xiao Tan asked. "Of course it was to send you down to save someone," Feng Bujue replied. "Let's not talk about whether or not the system would let you kick me." Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes and looked at Brother Ju. "If I want to save someone, I usually jump down myself. Don't you know that cats are afraid of water?" Feng Bujue said confidently. "You make it sound like falcons can swim." Xiao Tan's mouth twitched. "Wait. Anyway, bears are animals that can swim. What are we worried about?" "Yeah." Feng Bujue touched his chin and said, "Because of its abnormal attributes, we've neglected the basic characteristics of animal anthropomorphism." While the two were talking, Miao Mei ran over from afar. At this time, Xiong Ji had also climbed out of the river. That was close. I thought I was going to die." Xiong Ji knelt on the grass as the river water dripped from his body, making him look like a mess. The next second, he suddenly thought of something. "Ah! My backpack!" He turned back to look at the river. It has been washed away by the river." At this moment, Xiong Ji's face was full of grievances and tears were dripping from the corners of his eyes. He looked very pitiful. "Forget it, Xiong Ji-kun." Xiao Tan was still naive and kind. He couldn't bear to see this scene, so he went forward to comfort her. Anyway, it's just a sticky school bag. It's fine as long as you're fine. Tu-Mei-chan, you've gone too far. Even Miao-Mei said to Tu-Mei, even if my house was robbed, the thief may not necessarily be Xiongji-kun. It's okay, Miao-Mei-chan. Xiongji's hands were on the ground as he maintained the standard ORZ position. He said in a bitter tone, it's all because of my bad behavior, so I reap what I sow. In this atmosphere, Tu-Mei was a little embarrassed. Her eyes were no longer sharp when she looked at Xiongji. On the contrary, there was a hint of guilt. Tu-Mei hesitated for a moment and said, I went too far. I'm sorry, Xiongji-kun. As she said this, she took out a handkerchief from her pocket and handed it to him. Your fur is soaked, use this handkerchief to wipe it. However, at this moment, Xiongji's expression returned to its wretched state without any warning. His tone also became a little arrogant. No need. Before he finished speaking, he had already stood up and took out 2 socks from the pockets of his pants. If you want to wipe the water, I have better things. Ho. Silence descended upon them. Under the gaze of the 4 pairs of sharp, surprised, and annoyed eyes, Xiongji nonchalantly wiped his face with a pair of pink socks embroidered with a tulip pattern. It was obviously worn by someone else. Main mission progress changed, 3 days later, at school. Before Brother Bujue and Xiao Tan could recover from the state of speechlessness, the mission notification and transfer came one after another. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them went from the suburbs to the classroom. They opened the mission panel and saw that Xiongji's number of arrests had jumped to 2. What's going on? Xiao Tan was shocked again. Tu-Mei hasn't even called the police yet. Xiongji is already arrested? On the other hand, Feng Bujue's reaction was different from Xiao Tan's, or rather his reaction was different from most people's. When faced with this kind of sudden and unexpected change, the first thing he usually did was not to ask others, but to ask himself. Then, he would try to use his own knowledge, reasoning, and imagination to answer the question. Even if he could not come to a definite conclusion, he could at least come up with a few reasonable and possible speculations. And the above process usually took less than 3 seconds in Feng Bujue's mind. Therefore, when Xiao Tan asked the question, Brother Ju could usually give an answer. This case is also a good example. Feng Bujue turned his head to the left and said to Xiao Tan, who was sitting next to him, it explained to us that in this scenario, Xiongji's second form of arrest. As he spoke, he looked around and quickly found Xiongji and Tu-Mei at the other end of the classroom. We can't be careless. The second form of arrest? Xiao Tan repeated the key part of Brother Ju's words and then asked, like just now, the moment Xiongji showed the evidence of his crime, he was immediately treated as an arrest and immediately moved to another location? Yes, that's it, Feng Bujue said. How did this happen? Xiao Tan asked. Is it related to the side mission? He looked worried. If all the missions do this, we'll be in trouble. It has nothing to do with the side mission. Feng Bujue said, the key factor is still you and me. He thought about it for 2 seconds and explained, if you want an example, the few main events that we encountered earlier were actually just training stages. They were arranged by the system to familiarize us with the basic gameplay of this scenario. In those events, until the police put Xiongji in the police car and took him away from the crime scene, we were able to find a way to reverse the situation. He paused for half a second. But after that incident, I'm afraid the situation will change. At this stage, as long as Xiongji successfully makes that kind of confession, the system will announce his arrest, and the case will be closed. In other words, Xiao Tan said thoughtfully, from now on, waiting for Tu-Mei to call the police to change her mind won't work anymore. We have to stop Xiongji before he turns his intention into action and nip it in the bud. Once he does, it will be too late for us to cover it up. Yes, Feng Bujue replied. That's too difficult. Xiao Tan said. This guy is like a ticking time bomb, he could explode at any moment. We can't read his mind, so how can we? There are hints. Feng Bujue interrupted Xiao Tan's complaint and gave a constructive response. For example, in the case earlier from the transfer to Xiongji's exposure, we received more than one hint. He raised his cat finger and said, first, when he appeared, he was wearing a bra and said the worst lines. That was already a warning for us. Second, now that we think about it, the reason he was late was most likely because he overslept because he went out to steal something the night before. Also, when Miao Mei said that her socks were stolen, we should have thought of it. The item must be on Xiongji. Even if it wasn't in his pants pocket, it must be somewhere else, such as stuffing it in his mouth, or clamping it in the beep. A door. He sighed. Sigh. That's why I said we were too careless. After all the previous incidents, we shouldn't have had any illusions about Xiongji. In this regard, we are not as good as Tu Mei. Now that you mention it, Xiao Tan said, we did have a chance to stop him before he took out the socks. Anyway, the following cases will be like this, Feng Bujue said. We have to, meow. At this time, Miao Mei Chan's Japanese screech sounded again, interrupting their conversation. The two of them looked at each other and sighed. Then, they ran towards the direction of the shout. Chapter 791. It was unknown who made the rule that every time Miao Mei was the victim of an incident, she would ask Bunny Mei for help. This time was no exception. She ran in front of Bunny Mei with a terrified expression and said, Bunny Mei-chan. Bad news. What's wrong? Miao Mei-chan. Tu Mei looked at Miao Mei calmly. Every time Miao Mei went to Tu Mei for help, Xiongji would always be next to Tu Mei. Yeah, Miao Mei-chan, what happened? Xiongji asked with his usual innocent expression. It's like this, Miao Mei said as she took out a card that was slightly smaller than an envelope and handed it to Tu Mei. Recently, the very active, strange thief bears _ I sent a criminal notice card to my house. Hey! Is there really such a thing? Those strange thieves with strange names. Xiao Tan heard this and couldn't help but whisper. And he really did send a criminal notice. Yeah. Feng Bujue was expressionless as he continued softly. A person who would do such a thing. He gave Xiao Tan a look. Who do you think it is? Do I need to say? Xiao Tan's mouth twitched as he replied, the only bears in this class is Xiongji. The two of them were whispering to each other, so the other three couldn't hear them. At this time, Xiongji was looking at Miao Mei nervously, as if he didn't know anything about the case. He repeated in shock, What? What did you say? He looked serious. Strange thief bears _ I. He especially steals young women's underwear and clothes. Sometimes he even steals stationery and things from the trash can. He's an unforgivable thief. When he said this, he seemed to have noticed something from the corner of his eyes. He looked up. What greeted him was a sharp gaze. Why are you looking at me like that? Tu Mei-chan. Xiongji broke out in a cold sweat when he was faced with Tu Mei's, what a great stare. Are you bears _ I? Tu Mei didn't shy away from expressing her suspicions and questioned Xiongji face to face. No. No. Xiongji replied in a very sincere tone. If it were me, I wouldn't use the name bear, right? No matter how you look at it, isn't it too obvious? Tu Mei-chan, how about? Miao Mei said, you should take a look at the crime notice card first. Okay. Tu Mei took the card and looked at it in front of her eyes. At this moment, Feng Bujue and Wang Tongji quietly came over and stood behind Xiongji and Tu Mei respectively. Brother Ju was already mentally prepared. As long as he found out that Xiongji had the slightest sign of seeking death, he would immediately stop him. Is this the crime notice card of strange thief bears _ I? Tu Mei first turned the card over to look at the back. After confirming that it was blank, she turned back to the front and looked at it carefully. The card was roughly divided into two parts. The top and left sides of the card could be regarded as the upper half. There was a rectangular area and a right-angled triangle area, respectively, that was painted light blue. On the top, there was a rather conspicuous and large English font, Bears_I. On the left side there was an orange, rather concise design of a bear head logo, a hexagonal head, two semicircular ears, one open and one closed eyes, and a small round nose. As for the rest, the bottom right trapezoidal area of the card could be regarded as the lower half. From top to bottom, there were 5 lines of crooked words. The content was frowny face to Meow Mei-chan tonight, I will pay you a visit. We'll take some things. Number 1 wish, underwear. Number 2 wish, clothes or stationery. Number 3 wish, if there are none of the above items, replace them with various other things. This guy. Feng Bujue tiptoed and looked over Tu Mei's shoulder. He squinted at the content of the card and thought, it's still a bit obvious. Fortunately, he wasn't stupid enough to write his name this time. It's written in such detail. After Tu Mei finished reading the content of the card, she held the card in one hand and rested her chin on the other hand. Why did Bears_I make a special notice of his crime? Xiong-ji continued in a serious manner, presumably. When he saw the victim on tenterhooks, he would be very happy. He's simply an unforgivable villain. You shameless thing. Even Xiao Tan was cursing in his heart. You're just describing your inner thoughts. And you know that it's the behavior of a scumbag, right? He really regretted sharing food with Xiong-ji. Whether it was an instinctive sympathy between two people, or a person's sympathy for a cute anthropomorphic cartoon animal, Xiao Tan felt like he had been cheated. Speaking of which, after staring at the card for a few seconds, Tu Mei frowned slightly and commented, this illustration is really disgusting. There's no beauty at all, it's simply disgusting. How dare he send this kind of thing out? Huh! When Xiong-ji heard this, his expression changed abruptly. He seemed to have suffered a considerable blow. He said sadly, this is myself, squeak. Lala. Before Xiong-ji could finish his sentence, 2 cat claws appeared on both sides of his head. Just as he was about to say, this is the work of my confidence, Feng Bujue stuck 2 cat fingers into his mouth and pulled on his cheeks forcefully. This caused air to leak out from his lips, and he was unable to speak. What are you doing? Mao Taro. Tu Mei saw this scene and looked at Brother Ju with a puzzled expression. Haha, nothing. Feng Bujue smiled. I suddenly want to play a prank, haha. After he finished speaking, he still had no intention of taking his fingers out of Xiong-ji's mouth. Is it really fun to put your fingers in that perverted bear's mouth? Tu Mei continued, maybe if you get his saliva on you, you'll be infected with perverted attributes. Xiong-ji could still make this sound with his mouth. Oh, I almost forgot, you also have a history of peeping and violence. Tu Mei paused for 2 seconds and said, maybe you're already a pervert. It's hard to say. Ha 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 ha. Feng Bujue used a tone like a stick reading, usually when interpreting dialogue without emotional input, to respond to Tu Mei's vicious attack. He then replied with 4 fake laughs that couldn't be any more fake. As he laughed, he gave Xiao Tan a look. The latter understood and took a step towards him to help him drag Xiong-ji away. Although Tu Mei and Meow Mei felt that the 3 boys' behavior was a bit strange, this was elementary school after all. Meaningless fights between boys were a common phenomenon. Therefore, they had no intention of stopping them. They just continued to study the crime notice card. 2 minutes later, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji dragged Xiong-ji to the school's male toilet. At this time, there was no one else in the toilet except for the 3 of them. You. What are you doing? Xiongji looked at Mao Taro and Sun Taro with sweat all over his face. Do you want to fight with me? I'm not going to beat around the bush with you. Feng Bujue didn't answer his question. He asked directly, Xiongji-kun, the strange thief bears _I. Is that you? Xiongji took half a step back. No, I already said it wasn't me. Don't worry, we won't expose you, Brother Ju said with a smile. We're not going to call the police. He then turned to look at Xiao Tan. Right? Sun Taro. That's right. Xiao Tan seemed to be a little distracted. At this time, he was also silently analyzing the current situation in his mind. Since the system notification and the transition didn't come, this means that the incident of the strange thief bears _I isn't over yet. What should we do next? Do we have to wait until nighttime to ambush Xiongji near Miao Mei's house? Also, after the failure of the main mission last time, the system didn't give us an hour to rest. Was I wrong from the beginning, or did the system cancel the rest time after the difficulty increased? Chapter 792. Even if you say so. Xiongji still did not give in. He said sincerely, the thief bears _I is really not me. He had to admit that as a criminal who easily exposed evidence of his crimes, his acting skills were worthy of praise. That's enough, Xiongji-kun. Feng Bujue showed an evil smile. The notes on the card have already betrayed you. He paused. If I'm not mistaken, that criminal notice card just now, you asked your neighbor Mr. Wang to write it for you, right? Brother Ju's ability to trick people was superb. He had a set of corresponding methods to deal with targets of all kinds of IQ and personality. Now, he used a set of effective methods to deal with people like Xiongji. He pretended to be very confident and said a set of wrong inferences. He had to speak quickly and confidently. He understood that in this kind of funny universe, as long as the atmosphere during the exchange reached a certain subtle critical point, it would lead to nonsense. Xiongji replied loudly. I wrote it myself with a pen in my left hand. Slap your face. Before Xiongji's voice died away, Xiao Tan flapped his wings. I'm sorry. Xiongji, who had been coerced into confessing and slapped in the face, knelt down. Please forgive me. Strange robbers. Crime previews. It was all because I watched a few episodes of Detective Tadpole on TV. No matter what. I just sent a card, I didn't. Ugh, at this moment, Feng Bujue used the gorilla strangling to clamp down on Xiongji and interrupted. Don't avoid the important when you're explaining the problem. I'm going to die. Xiongji's expression was painful, and his voice was hoarse. I can't breathe. A few seconds later, Brother Ju let go of him. Trash with a combat strength of only 5. Ha ha. Xiongji knelt on the ground and panted. So painful. I think I saw the Three Roads River just now. Ha ha. Aiko the penguin is waving at you from the other side of the river. Brother Ju smiled darkly as he continued. What? Xiongji's expression changed again. He was shocked. Why did you suddenly mention Aiko the penguin? What do you think? At this moment, Xiao Tan had a vague idea of Brother Ju's strategy, so he put on a stern expression and said to Xiongji, Do you think we'll just let the matter of Aiko the penguin go? Xiongji's face was orange because his skin tone was like that, and his whole body trembled as he replied, What? What are you talking about? The murderer. The murderer who killed Aiko the penguin was obviously Ape. Ape G. Brother Ju interrupted. He laughed dryly. Don't forget, the person who made Ape G the scapegoat through inference. Xiao Tan continued. It was the two of us. We knew from the beginning that you were the murderer. Feng Bujue put his cat face in front of Xiongji and said in a low voice, So, you'd better be smart, Xiao Tan added, If we can arrest the innocent ape G, we can also arrest a criminal like you. You? Why are you doing this? Xiong Ji's face was filled with fear as he stammered. Slap. Slap your bare face. Feng Bujua also slapped him. Don't ask questions without permission. I'm sorry. Xiong Ji immediately knelt on the ground and replied respectfully, Lord Mao Taro, Lord Sun Taro, please enlighten me. Even the way you address me has changed. Xiao Tan thought to himself. To be honest, the speed at which this perverted bear lost his moral integrity made him gasp in amazement. A few seconds later, Brother Ju gave Xiao Tan a look. Then, he squatted down so that his eyes were level with Xiong Ji's and said, Listen carefully, Xiong Ji. At this moment, Wang Tongji and everyone who was familiar with Feng Bujua should know that Brother Ju's brainwashing was about to begin again. From a criminal's point of view, you're too lousy. Brother Ju sneered. As a perverted gentleman, don't you think it's too embarrassing to be arrested all the time? Lord Mao Taro, what do you mean? Xiong Ji asked tentatively. Let me teach you. Feng Bujua said, the ultimate skill of how to get away with it, damn. So this is your purpose. Xiao Tan couldn't help but cast a contemptuous look at Brother Ju. The corner of his mouth twitched as he thought to himself, but, just like Tu Mei's stare, Xiong Ji's brainless self-detonation and idiotic crime are basic characteristics of his character. Can it really be corrected? Is there really such a skill? Xiong Ji looked expectantly at Brother Ju and asked. Haha. Feng Bujua showed a very provocative and bewitching smile. As long as you listen to me and do as I say, I can guarantee that you can continue to commit crimes and won't be arrested again. Hey, is it really okay for a protagonist to say something like that? Xiao Tan finally couldn't help but complain. You'll be a bad influence on the innocent and kind children and teenagers. Innocent and kind are adjectives that are better left for the fictional heroines in Korean dramas. The people who are reading this book don't have any moral integrity at all. Feng Bujua replied calmly. The lives of those guys, when they reach the end, they must see some embarrassing scenes flashing before their eyes. He paused for a moment and said, As a protagonist, do you think it's easy for me to stay in this kind of story for 16 chapters? Other protagonists eat and drink well, kill bosses, devour treasures, and have dozens of beautiful harems with different personalities. They live a life of debauchery. Even Kuruma Rokuro, the fictional detective in the Japanese drama 33 Minutes Detective, has a beautiful assistant. But me. I can only take a bird with me and a good-for-nothing with a bare face. Plus, there are still 17 chapters to go. He stared at Xiao Tan. In this kind of situation, you're still criticizing my way of doing things, don't you feel ashamed? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Xiao Tan lowered his head and showed a sympathetic and guilty look. Very well, let's get back to business. After Brother Ju finished lecturing Xiao Tan, he turned his head again and looked at Xiong Ji. So, Xiong Ji-kun, since you've already released the crime notice, it's just right. Tonight, you'll act under my guidance. Chapter 793. Sigh. 2 paragraphs ago, he was still saying something like, Is it easy to be the main character? But after the next chapter, he's left me with the whole mess. At 4 p.m., Xiao Tan carried his backpack and walked down the street alone, mumbling to himself. He said something like, Since there is still a long time before midnight, I alone will be enough to keep an eye on Xiong Ji. You can move around freely in this scenario. Perhaps you'll be able to accept some hidden missions or get some items. Haha, that's basically giving up on me. As he mumbled to himself, he lowered his head to look at the map in his hands. Also, this map sure is sloppy. With this, will I really be able to find Miao Mei's home and meet up with them? Hey, you over there. Just as Xiao Tan lowered his head to study the map, A rather feminine voice came from behind him. Xiao Tan's first reaction was, a salesman? In real life, Wang Tongji was the type of person who would be stopped by people on the street. Because he looked like a very easygoing person, people who sold insurance, peddled gym cards, promoted all kinds of unlicensed products, and self-proclaimed talent scouts all liked to talk to him. There was also random street interviews from TV stations, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers of unknown gender, etc. Xiao Tan was such a person. When people first saw him, they would feel warm and safe. This was an innate presence. Even though it had something to do with physical appearance, it was not completely dependent on one's appearance. If there was a negative example, Feng Bujue was one. Brother Ju was definitely not ugly. The woman in white at the south gate of Harem City gave him a very pertinent comment. Forgive me for being blunt, but when it comes to appearance, I'm afraid the young master is still a little bit lacking. Since it was a little bit lacking, it meant that he was not that far off. Considering the fact that there were no appas in Harem City, their sense of beauty should be quite reliable. However, when Feng Bujue walked down the street, he was rarely approached by strangers. Even the workers who passed flyers to passers-by, when they passed Brother Ju a piece of paper, they would move their eyes away, and they would appear rather nervous. In the same situation, if Xiao Tan walked down the street with a smile on his face, people would think, this handsome man had run into something good. But if Feng Bujue walked down the street with the same smile, people would think, this handsome man had just solved a locked-room murder. Hello, classmate, do you have some time? When Xiao Tan turned around, he saw the figures of two men. These two were humans. He was a real human being, not an anthropomorphic animal. The person who spoke to Xiao Tan looked about 40 or 50. He was wearing a light green kimono. He had light brown hair and a stubble on his chin. The person beside him looked to be in his early 20s, and was wearing a beige kimono. He had a head of black hair and was fair and clean. He stared with a pair of dead fish eyes, and carried a wooden box tied to a straw rope on his chest. Yes. Xiao Tan hesitated for 2 seconds before replying, sure. He had been wandering around aimlessly, trying to find some side quests or hidden quests, so he had plenty of time on his hands. Side mission has been triggered. After Xiao Tan said the word yes, the system notification came. He immediately opened the game menu and looked at the mission panel. The words, "Witness the victory between Banana Mulberry and Tseng Liangjun as a referee," appeared in front of his eyes. When Xiao Tan saw the mission content, he took 2 seconds to react. He thought to himself, from the names and appearances of these two, could they be Matsuo Banana and Kawaii Tseng Liangjun? Matsuo Banana was a famous haiku master in the Edo period with the name Haiku Sage. Kawaii Tseng Liangjun was a haiku poet of the same era. He had once traveled Oku and the northern continent with Matsuo Banana as his disciple. He was also one of Matsuo Banana's 10 disciples, one of the 10 sages of Banana Mulberry. Xiao Tan's familiarity with Niwa was far inferior to Brother Ju's, but his general knowledge of history was still quite good. He knew a little about the historical figures of various countries, so he wondered, aren't these two master and disciple? What's with the victory and defeat? With this in mind, the expression in his eyes changed slightly. However, in this amusing universe, nothing will be strange. I'll take a look first. That's great, classmate. By the way, let me introduce myself. When Banana saw that Xiao Tan had agreed, he smiled and said, I'm the famous Matsuo Banana. To actually say that you're famous in front of someone you've just met. Xiao Tan didn't know what kind of person Banana was in the Niwa world. When he heard this, he complained inwardly, wait, even in front of an acquaintance. Forget it. 2 seconds later, Xiao Tan smiled awkwardly and pretended to be a little surprised. Hey, are you the famous Matsuo Banana? Heh. Yes, that's me. Do you want me to sign on your clothes? Banana asked happily. Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes and replied, That won't be necessary. May I know why you stopped me? Xiao Tan quickly steered the topic back to business, wanting to complete the mission as soon as possible. Oh, by the way, it's like this. Banana pointed at Xing Liang beside him. That man with bad eyesight over there is my disciple, Xing Liang Jun. Slap your bare face. Just as Banana finished speaking, Xing Liang gave him a slap from the side behind him. Banana screamed and turned his neck more than 90 degrees. However, he recovered in 2 seconds and looked at Xiao Tan again. With a threatening gaze and tone, he said, Did you see anything just now? No. I'm a little far-sighted. I didn't see anything. Xiao Tan looked up at the sky and replied against his will. That's good. Banana's eyes were filled with tears as he said solemnly, The banana legend of this land still needs you to praise it. Thank you for your trouble. Rely on me. The corner of Xiao Tan's mouth twitched as he replied, Speaking of which, banana legend or something. What the hell is that? That's why I called out to you. As Banana spoke, he began to explain, Actually, just now, Xing Liangjun and I each composed a haiku, a type of classical short poem in Japan. It's composed of a total of 17 syllables. It has strict requirements for the format and is restricted by the Ji language. At this moment, Xing Liang quickly said to Xiao Tan, What I made was strong and unrestrained Pine Island. Do you and Xiang borrowed the vermilion robe? Don't let the scenery disappear in vain. After he finished speaking, Banana said, And what I made was, although it was extremely itchy just now, it's fine now. Hey! Xiao Tan was alarmed when he heard that. What's the latter part? This shouldn't be a problem with the system's translation, right? Even if I haven't learned Japanese, I can tell that there's a world of difference between the two parts. Classmate, I just want to find a bystander to judge which part is better. Before Banana could finish his sentence, he proudly recited, But if you ask me, if my haiku is 100, Xing Liangjuan's haiku is probably 2. Oh no. It's vomit. Hehe. Vomit. Ahaha. Ahahaha. As he spoke, he even giggled foolishly. I'll slap your bare face again. The next second, Xing Liangjun used another slap to stop Banana's foolish actions. Holy sh*t. Can the attributes of one of them be any more obvious? Xiao Tan felt pressured as he watched from the side. He thought to himself, also, Does the outcome of the battle between the two of them really need an existence like a referee to judge? Classmate. Banana quickly covered his swollen left cheek and acted as if nothing had happened as he leaned in front of Xiao Tan. That's the general situation. Tell me, whose haiku do you think is better, Xing Liangjuan's or mine? Say it. Then, praise the legend of Banana. Xing Liangjun. Xiao Tan didn't even wait for Banana to finish his sentence before he decisively gave an answer. Pfft! Before he could finish his sentence, Banana instantly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the side of the road. You should give up now, Ba-san, Xing Liangjun said coldly as he stood behind Banana. That, classmate, although I don't know your name, Banana didn't seem to have given up. He came in front of Xiao Tan once again and said, I beg of you, reconsider carefully again. This guy sure is thick-skinned. Xiao Tan's face was covered in cold sweat. He looked at Ba Jiao and thought to himself, You don't know my name because you didn't ask for my name and didn't give me the chance to introduce myself, right? And that kind of haiku of yours, the more you think about it and think about it carefully, the more you will feel that it is so cheap. I got it. Suddenly, Banana's eyes lit up. He took out a rather thick piece of cardboard from somewhere and handed it to Xiao Tan. If you consider it carefully, I can give this to you. Are you trying to bribe me? Xiao Tan muttered softly as he took the item from the other party. Yes. If it's really a very good prop, I can take the test. His words came to an abrupt halt because he realized that there was only Banana's signature on the piece of cardboard. What was even more ridiculous was that there was a bright red lipstick mark beside the signature. Please put it away. At that instant, Xiao Tan's blackened state suddenly came online. Even if you kneel down and beg me, I won't accept it. Enough is enough, Ba-san. At this point, Tsing Liangjun couldn't stand it any longer. He went forward and grabbed Banana's collar. Leave quickly, Ba-san. Don't cause trouble for others. Wait, Tsing Liangjun. At that moment, Banana flipped over and stood up straight. No. Tsing Liangjun. Pa, no. Lord Tsing Liangjun. Another forceful slap made Banana change the way he addressed his disciple. Let's duel. Let's duel. Chapter 794. Duel? Tsing Liang was still staring with his dead fish eyes as he calmly looked at Ba Jiao. That's right. Let this bird-like student be the referee. Ba Jiao pointed at Xiao Tan and said, I'm a falcon. Although he felt that it was fine to say it, Xiao Tan still corrected him. Then, it's finally time to teach this complacent disciple a lesson. Ba Jiao ignored the duo's reaction as he continued speaking. In the next second, he took off his shirt. His kimono was a one-piece kimono. As there was a belt around his waist, even if he took off the clothes on his upper body, it wouldn't fall off. Ultimate profundity. Ba Jiao stood up with his arms bared and his legs spread apart. Then, he raised his hands and extended his palms parallel to his forearms. Following that, he was like a crab waving its pincers. He swung his arms up and down and said with a constipated expression, Take this, Matsuo thousand-armed guanyin. Isn't it just two hands? Xiao Tan looked at this fellow's display and felt helpless. Ha ha, you must be shocked. Ba Jiao smiled smugly as he looked at Tsing Liang. This move uses the high-speed movements of the hands to create layers of afterimages and transform into the appearance of the thousand-armed guanyin. He already said that he only has two hands. Tsing Liang replied coldly. There aren't more hands? Ba Jiao was taken aback. No. Xiao Tan replied in a very certain tone. When Ba Jiao heard this, he swung his hands even faster. Then what about this? It's useless. Xiao Tan gave an even more thorough rejection. Is that so? Is that so? Ba Jiao muttered thoughtfully as his hands gradually slowed down. Then, forget it. With that said, he put on his clothes again in a split second. He revealed an expression of inspiration and said, Got it. Let's use haiku to determine the victor. Isn't this turn of events too sudden? Xiao Tan was shocked. Say, if you move your hands at the same speed as when you put on your clothes, you might be able to create an afterimage. Heh. Banana once again ignored Xiao Tan's words and changed into a gloomy expression. He said in a terrifying tone, The rule is, from now on, all the conversations between Tsing Liangjun and I have to be carried out in a 575 format. So you're the one who set the rules. Xiao Tan muttered. I thought I was the referee. All right, let the match begin. Banana didn't let Xiao Tan finish his sentence as he interrupted loudly. On the other side, Tsing Liang was as calm as ever. He quickly said, I say, Banana, 5, what are the things you like to eat, 7? I love to eat sea urchins, Banana blurted out almost without thinking. After the two finished talking, silence descended. About 5 seconds later, Banana flew into a rage out of humiliation and shouted, Not yet. I haven't lost yet. As the referee, I should be the one to decide if you lose. The corner of Xiao Tan's mouth twitched as he continued, but to be honest, with such an obvious outcome, is there really a need for a referee? Now that things have come to this. Banana still ignored Xiao Tan and stubbornly rushed to Tsing Liang. We can only swim. Let's decide the victor with swimming. He pointed to the side. Let's compete in that small river over there. Whoever swims to the boulder upstream first will win. All right, Xing Liang replied calmly. Xiao Tan wasn't worried about the young and strong Xing Liang, but Banana was really unreliable. That's too much of a stretch. Banana. He also looked at the river. The river's current is very fast. Cut the crap. Banana pulled Xiao Tan's wings and headed straight for the river. I want to compete. 2 minutes later, Wang Tanji, Matsuo Banana, Kawaii, and Tseng Liang arrived at the river. Although they were in a town, such a small river still existed. As it was connected to the city's sewage pipes, the river water wasn't considered clean, and the current was rather fast. Cut the crap. Let me call out for you to get ready. Just as the three of them stood by the river, Banana impatiently walked to the front. Everyone, get into position. Before he could say the word position, one of his feet had already stepped into the water. In less than half a second his entire body slid down as he inexplicably shouted, "Let's go out! Let's go out?" Xiao Tan repeated in bewilderment as he watched Banana get washed away by the water. The water's rushing. Banana, who was instantly swept away by the current for more than 10 meters, finally revealed a look of panic. Wait a minute. What the hell is this? I can't swim anymore. I'm not playing anymore. Seeing this scene, Tseng Liang, who was standing on the shore, still said to Xiao Tan in a lukewarm tone, "Do you see that, 5? Matsuo Banana is in the river, 7. He's been washed away, 5. Why are you leisurely over there? Your master has been washed away by the water." Xiao Tan roared also. Why are you still using 575 sentences? 15 minutes later, 2 kilometers downstream. We've walked so far and still haven't seen any trace of him. Where did he wash to? Xiao Tan muttered as he walked beside Xing Liang. The riverbed downstream has become shallow. He'll probably stop somewhere. Compared to Xiao Tan, Xing Liang's attitude was even colder. It was as if he was a stranger who had been washed away by the water. No, it should be said that he was worse than a stranger. Before the two of them could finish their sentence, a light green figure appeared in Xiao Tan's line of sight. His falcon vision was now very powerful, allowing him to see things very far away. Therefore, he could tell at a glance that it was the lower half of Banana's body that was stuck in the riverbed. To make a long story short, with Xiao Tan and Tseng Liang's combined efforts, Banana quickly came out of the river. "Banana, are you all right?" Xiao Tan asked as he looked at the disheveled Banana. After coming ashore, Banana was sprawled on the ground covered in water. He looked like he was about to collapse. "Thanks to you, I was saved." He paused for a moment before explaining, "My head was caught by a rock on the riverbed. That's why I was floating with my feet in the air." "I say, Banana," Xiao Tan said, "you proposed a swimming duel and ended up being washed away by the water. It's already embarrassing enough. Don't expose such disgraceful details." "Nonsense." Banana was energized after catching his breath. "I, haiku sage Matsuo Banana, jumped into the river to protect the village downstream. I used my proud muscles to withstand the rapids. This is obviously bullsh*t. Is this also a part of the legend of Banana?" Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes as he replied. However, Banana's nonsense didn't stop because of this. He continued, "However, when my disciple, Tseng Liangjun, saw this scene, he became jealous of the handsome Matsuo. Shui Wei for short. So he, shut your bare face." Tseng Liang slapped Banana to shut his mouth. "From the looks of it, your method is still effective," Xiao Tan said. "Of course," Tseng Liang replied. "Damn it." Banana was still unconvinced as he stood up with a whoosh. "Listen up. There's still the final duel. You still haven't given up." Xiao Tan held his forehead and shook his head. At that moment, he only hoped that he could quickly end this side mission to prevent himself from suffering any indelible mental damage. Heh heh heh. The confidence in Banana's smile was unimaginable. That's right. At the very end. Let's use our handsomeness to determine the victor. He suddenly turned his head and pointed at Xiao Tan. Student, as the referee this match, you have to make a good decision. Eh? Do you still remember that I'm the referee? Xiao Tan was taken aback. Speaking of which, I didn't have the chance to make a decision previously. Are you ready? Sing Liangjun. Banana took half a step back and looked at Xiao Tan. Saw student, between me and Sing Liangjun, who is more handsome? Please tell me with your conscience. Sing Liangjun. Xiao Tan's answer came very quickly. UF***ker. Banana jumped up from the ground. What the F***ck? He yelled as he charged at Xiao Tan. Oh? What's going on? A battle? This time, Xiao Tan was indeed caught off guard. He originally thought that this amusing script wouldn't trigger any battle, so he wasn't prepared. However, Banana grabbed Xiao Tan's collar and pressed him to the ground. Then, he reached his other hand into his hair and began to sprinkle dandruff. Feel the wrath of the haiku god. Snowy dance of the 9 heavens. Banana shouted the name of the move. At that moment, Xiao Tan was deeply shocked. Looking at the dandruff floating on his face, he was speechless. He didn't want to resist because he felt that it was too cruel to be serious with such an amusing person. Sigh. Forget it. At that moment, Sing Liangjun sighed. Consider it my loss. Banana heard this and immediately stopped what he was doing. Really? Then I'm a romantic and handsome Shui Wei? Ah. Yes, yes. Sing Liangjun said weakly. Romantic Shui Wei. What? In the end, I won. Banana instantly put on a harmless expression and stopped his snowy dance of the 9 heavens. He took out something from his pocket and placed it in Xiao Tan's hand. In any case, thank you, student. Before he finished, he pulled Sing Liangjun away and waved at Xiao Tan from afar. Bye-bye. Side quest completed. Special scenario extra reward. Banana Mulberry's Ma Fei doll. When Xiao Tan recovered, the two had already walked away, and the system audio stated that the thing that Banana stuffed into his hand before he left was the reward for this mission. Chapter 795. Night had already fallen. There was nothing special about the sun and the universe's night. Everything around him still maintained the usual comic comedy style. Even the moon in the sky wasn't that round. Hey, I'm here. When he turned the corner, Wang Tongji heard a familiar voice calling his name. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a human, cat, figure under a street lamp diagonally across the intersection. Phew! Xiao Tan let out a long breath and looked around before walking over. When Xiao Tan approached, Feng Bujue said in a low voice, "You came on time." Actually, I didn't deliberately calculate the time. Xiao Tan replied. From 4 in the afternoon until 20 minutes ago. I completed 4 side missions one after another. After completing the 4th mission, I looked at the map and rushed over. The time was just right. I roughly know that, Feng Bujue continued. When you received the side mission, it would also appear in my game menu. Then you should also know the degree of pain I'm feeling now. Xiao Tan said expressionlessly. Heh. I'm not too sure about that, Feng Bujue said. It's not easy to speculate based on the content of the mission itself. Then I'll explain it briefly. Xiao Tan continued. First of all, the first side mission. I witnessed a duel between Banana Mulberry and Sing Liangjun. Yes, I'm familiar with the two of them. Brother Ju nodded and said, the strong and adorable and the arrogant and black-bellied. Although I don't like such ACG heavy titles, I have to say that your positioning is very accurate. Xiao Tan replied with narrowed eyes. Thank you, Brother Ju said with a smile. Xiao Tan licked his lips. 2 seconds later, he said, then, in the second side mission, I was brought to a strange meeting room by an uncle who claimed to be the manager of the product development department. I studied the stickers developed by their company with a bunch of weirdly dressed guys. Is it a scam? Feng Bujue continued. It has nothing to do with me. After all, I'm not buying their products. I'm just giving them some suggestions as a random consumer. Xiao Tan replied. It's just, I never expected that the stickers model, a very patriotic brat, would run in without permission. According to the manager, he seemed to be the son of Mr. Oishi who was fired last month. A few minutes later, the conflict between them turned violent. The manager's leg and the brat's whip leg. Finally, he left with a cane. Haha, that is quite the effort. Feng Bujue laughed drily. Then, I encountered the third side mission. Xiao Tan shrugged and continued, this may be the most inexplicable mission I've encountered so far. Yeah, I was just about to ask you. Feng Bujue said, what is the plot of Through the Wrong Guidance, She Can't Reach the Destination Before Midnight? Brother Ju was quite familiar with the plot of Niwa. Therefore, when he saw keywords such as banana, Tseng Liang, or sticker in the mission panel, he could immediately infer who Xiao Tan encountered. Only the third side quest that Xiao Tan triggered, from the content of the quest, it was hard to tell which story in Niwa was related to. I'm not too sure. Xiao Tan said. The woman claimed to be a beautiful lady with a sweet and sour strawberry flavor from a famous university, S1. She said that she was working part-time as a tutor at night. But she seemed to have no sense of direction. She said. It felt like she had already found the client's address. But in fact... Okay. You don't have to continue, Feng Bujue interrupted him. This is a sad story. What's wrong? Xiao Tan replied. I think the NPC I encountered in this mission is the least ridiculous one I've encountered so far. Other than her lack of sense of direction, she was basically a normal person. She saw that it was almost midnight, but she still hadn't found the client's home. So, she said that it was too late and she had to go back. Until she left my sight, she didn't do anything strange. He said thoughtfully, speaking of which, I feel a little guilty. I led her around in circles for a few hours, so she couldn't go to the client's home. That's considered disrupting her work, right? No, you've done a good deed. Feng Bujue said, not only did you keep her safe, but you also converted 2 people who were filled with distracting thoughts. You've done a great deed. Ba. Xiao Tan didn't understand what Brother Ju was talking about, but he didn't think too much about it. He just thought that Brother Ju was joking, and he didn't get the joke. Okay. Then, the fourth side mission. After a few seconds, Wang Tanji continued, you'll know if you look at the mission panel. It's a combat mission. Yeah. Feng Bujue said, you received it at 12:20 after midnight, right? Survive a battle with a werewolf, that's right. Xiao Tan replied. When the mission notification sounded, a guy dressed like a high school student took the opportunity to transform in front of me. Brother Ju continued, for the next hour, did you run away from him? No. When he transformed, I was standing in a dead end. Xiao Tan replied, there was no way to escape, huh? Feng Bujue was stunned when he heard this, but in the next second, he seemed to understand something, and a smile appeared on his face. Oh, you met the werewolf, whose combat power was just about on par with an elementary school student, right? This kind of pain setting. You remember it so well. Xiao Tan's answer proved that Brother Ju was right. What's wrong with that? I still remember that the werewolf's name was Fujita. Feng Bujue raised his eyebrows and replied. Okay. Xiao Tan spread out his hands. In short, I used the body of Sun Taro, a student from Animal Elementary School, to fight with the 2-meter-tall, ferocious-looking werewolf for more than 10 minutes, and then, I won. After he lost, did he bury his face between his knees and sit on the ground in depression for an hour? Feng Bujue asked immediately. Yes. An hour later, the system notified me that the mission was completed. At this point, Xiao Tan summarized his nearly 10-hour journey in Japan and the world. So, I just happened to arrive at this moment. Feng Bujue nodded and thought for 2 seconds before saying, by the way, what kind of item is the doll you got from Banana Mulberry? Only one of these 4 side missions gave an item as a reward. It should be something good, right? Chapter 796. Xiao Tan did not waste time. He took out the doll and showed the item description to Brother Ju. Name: Banana Mulberry's Ma Fei doll. Item type: Other, rarity. Broken is special effect. The wearer can use the special skill, 9th Snow Dance. This skill is not affected by the upper limit of the skill bar. Prerequisite: male, bound after pickup, can be taken out of the scenario. Yes. Remark: the doll that Banana Sang treats as a good friend. Every time it is scolded by Tsing Liangjun, Banana Sang will hug Ma Fei tightly to seek solace. It was a doll with a very strange appearance. Its body was like a starving teddy bear, and its overall color was between the color of flesh and pink. The most ridiculous thing was, its face was not cute at all. It looked like a middle-aged uncle with simple facial lines and a gloomy face. Not bad, Feng Bujue commented after reading it. In other words, from now on, other than the 12 skill slots in your skill bar, you have an extra skill. Not bad? What? Xiao Tan tilted his head. Name: Snow Dance 9 Heavens. Special skill type: active effect. When the skill is activated, when you rub your hair, dandruff will fall endlessly. Remark: the god of haiku passed down this unique skill to Matsuo Banana Sang. That's the effect. Xiao Tan read the skill description word by word and shrugged. It's really useless. It's as good as nothing. Actually, when Xiao Tan saw Banana Sang's Ma Fei doll, he was happy for a moment, but when he saw the skill description, his heart sank. Feng Bujue thought about it for a few seconds. I think, under certain circumstances, this can be useful, such as... Xiao Tan asked tentatively. Temporarily, I haven't thought of anything, Brother Ju replied. Sigh. Xiao Tan sighed. You don't need to console me. It's just a quest for nothing. After all, the quest is not that difficult. It's just a pain. I'm not comforting you. Feng Bujue continued. You'll understand in the future. He paused. Even if this is really useless, it won't affect you much. You have plenty of space in your backpack, so it's not a problem to bring more things with you. Well, that's true. Xiao Tan nodded. For rich players like Wang Tongji and Xiao Linggu, the inventory and storage slots were never a problem. When they felt the pinch, they could just buy it. Hey Teacher Mao Taro, I'm here. Just as the two were talking, a familiar, wretched voice came from a few meters away. The two of them looked in the direction of the voice and saw Xiong Ji dressed in white. He was dressed in a white shirt, white pants, and a white hat. He even held a cane in his hand, making him look like a magician. It's the middle of the night. Are you looking for trouble? That was the first thing Brother Ju said when he saw Xiong Ji. Huh. Xiong Ji replied in a pitiful tone. Didn't you say, change into something suitable for the operation and come over? How is this outfit suitable for the operation? Feng Bujue said. Are you afraid that people won't be able to find you in the dark? Sigh. Xiong Ji looked disappointed. But this is the outfit I made for strange burglar bears _I, he grumbled, and it's made with confidence, phew. Feng Bujue looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. He mumbled to himself, I've miscalculated. I should have told him to change into something low profile, close-fitting, and convenient for the operation. At this point, it was unrealistic to ask Xiongji to go home and change into a new outfit. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, the best time to rob someone's house. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Fine. Let's do it this way, Feng Bujue said as he took out a piece of paper from his pocket. Look carefully, this is the floor plan of Miao Mei's house. Next, I'll plan the operation. Where did you get this from? Xiao Tan looked at the piece of paper and asked curiously. I drew it myself, of course, Feng Bujue replied. There's a pen and paper in my bag, I can make use of it. Xiao Tan continued. No. I mean, how did you? I've been inside. Feng Bujue knew what Xiao Tan meant, so he interrupted his question and gave the answer directly. What? Xiongji was shocked. You actually entered the home of Miao-mai-chan, who is like a holy domain to me. His eyes quickly turned from shock to admiration. Teacher, how did you do it? Speaking of which, this guy changed the way he addressed you, Xiao Tan whispered in Brother Ju's ear. Feng Bujue ignored Xiao Tan's comment and continued the topic. It's simple. First, I went to her house and pressed the doorbell. Then, her mother came out to answer the door. I lied to her and said, I accidentally lost the notes I took in math class, and I want to borrow Miao Mei's notes to copy. Then, she let me in. Because I was very polite and my request wasn't too much, Miao Mei didn't suspect anything. He paused for half a second before continuing. After that, I went to Miao-chan's room and pretended to copy her notes. After that, I ate the tea and snacks prepared by Miao-chan's mother. After that, I quickly surveyed the layout of her house in the name of going to the toilet. Finally, I thanked Miao-chan and left through the front door. Miao Mei's room. Xiongji hugged his face with his hands and looked very excited as he spun in circles. It seems he didn't hear anything after the word room. Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes and said, It's okay, Feng Bujue said as he stepped forward and waved his paw. Slap. I'm sorry. I'm just a gentleman who's dancing in the palm of the god of lust. After his bare face was covered, Xiongji returned to his cowardly nature. He respectfully lowered his head and stood by the wall, apologizing in a way that made people scratch their heads. Okay, look at the map carefully. Feng Bujue pointed at the floor plan in his hand. This is the entrance. After entering, there is a very short corridor. The door on the right leads to the utility room, and if you go straight, you will reach the living room. The kitchen and the living room are connected, and the other side is the bathroom, he said while pointing. He spoke fast, but it was just enough for Zhang Zian to follow his train of thought. This is the staircase that leads to the second floor. There are 2 bedrooms on the second floor, as well as a bathroom and toilet, and then. At this point, Brother Ju paused and used his finger to point. This is our breakthrough. Chapter 797. What's here? Xiao Tan looked at the big cross on the map that Brother Ju was pointing at. This is the end of the corridor on the second floor. There's a sliding window on the wall that can be pulled horizontally. Feng Bujue replied, Previously, I used the few minutes I had to go to the bathroom to set up a small mechanism on the window. You used cellophane tape? Xiao Tan immediately responded. Haha. That's quite clever, Brother Ju said with a smile. I remember you used to do this when you were in the 2nd grade of primary school. Xiao Tan said, That night you snuck into the school and sawed off the desks and chairs of the boys in the next class. You remember that pretty well, Feng Bujue said. I almost forgot about it myself. I basically remember all the bad things you did in the past. Xiao Tan said, showing a thoughtful look. I don't know why. Perhaps it is because you have a conscience, that you have decided to shoulder my sin as well, Feng Bujue said with a smile. Actually, I think, you definitely have a conscience. Xiao Tan said, It's just that your view is a little different from normal people, humph. Feng Bujue showed a meaningful smile. Maybe, 2 seconds later, he brought the topic back to the business at hand. Well, since you already know my method, let's cut to the chase. I'll assign the tasks. Brother Ju looked at Xiongji. Xiongji, you're the heaviest here, and your clothes are conspicuous and inconvenient. So, when we build the human ladder, you have to be at the bottom. Xiongji was stunned for a second. What human ladder? It turned out that he still didn't understand the meaning of the transparent glue mechanism, so he didn't know what those two were talking about. Of course, this was not entirely his fault. Feng Bujue and Wang Tongji had many years of tacit understanding. Between them, there were many things that could be understood without being said. But with Xiongji's IQ and EQ, if you don't tell him everything, he won't understand. At the end of the corridor on the second floor, there is a window that seems to be closed, but it can actually be open. Xiao Tan was the most patient. He immediately turned to Xiongji and explained, "Let's go in from there." Oh. Xiongji didn't seem to understand, so he responded. Feng Bujue continued, "Considering that Sun Taro's hands can't open the window, the person at the top of the ladder must be me." He raised his cat paw and waved it in front of the bear and falcon. "Plus, I'm light, and I'm not afraid of falling from a high place. It makes perfect sense for me to be at the top." Understood. Xiao Tan naturally had no objection to this. Mr. Maotaro, then how do we get in?" Xiongji asked a very low-level question. "Is your big round head filled with sh*t?" Brother Ju's desire to mock was ignited again. "I'm already in the room, what do you think?" Xiongji thought for 2 seconds. "Can you throw a rope down from the second floor and pull us up?" Slap. This time, Brother Ju didn't slap Xiongji's bare face. Instead, he slapped his own face. "Be patient. There are still 12 chapters. After 12 chapters, I'll stab him to death." He muttered viciously in a voice that only he could hear. Sigh. Xiao Tan patted Xiongji's shoulder and said earnestly, "Since Maotaro is already in the room, he can just go to the first floor and open the front door for us." "Ah, that's right." Xiongji clapped his hands. Okay, let's move." Feng Bujue took out 2 flashlights from his pocket and gave one each to Xiao Tan and Xiongji. "Put them away first, turn them on when we're in the room. When you turn them on, don't forget to use your hands to block the front. Don't let the light shoot out." "You don't need it?" Wang Tongji looked at Brother Ju suspiciously. "I'm a cat, have you forgotten?" Feng Bujue replied. 5 minutes later, climbing over the wall of Miao Mei's house didn't take much time for the 3 burglars to do so. It was just a normal low wall. With Feng Bujue's cat-like skills, he could easily climb up the wall. As long as one of them managed to climb up, the other 2 would be much easier. The one who managed to climb up the wall would be able to pull his partner up. After climbing over the wall, the 3 of them quickly and quietly passed through a small backyard. In the wee hours of the morning, everything was quiet. Even the slightest movement would be much more obvious than during the day. Therefore, the 3 of them had to be extra careful. Otherwise, they would easily alert the cat. Hey! When they reached the wall, Feng Bujue lowered his voice and made 6 hand signals to Xiao Tan and Xiongji to match the sound of his mumbling and groaning. Xiao Tan and Xiongji had the same reaction when they saw the hand gestures. They both stared at Brother Ju with their eyes wide open. Their expressions seemed to be asking, "What are you doing?" Sigh. Feng Bujue shook his head and simply said, "You, here, crouch firmly. You, over there, get ready to run." As he spoke, he repeated the hand gestures. "Why don't you just say it?" Xiao Tan whispered back. Slap. "Why did you hit me?" In the next second, Xiongji was inexplicably slapped. But when Feng Bujue hit him, his eyes were looking at Wang Tongji. "Hey! Are you trying to intimidate me?" Xiao Tan said. It's all because of him. Stop talking nonsense and get moving, Feng Bujue grumbled angrily. The two of them couldn't argue with him. They looked at each other and moved separately. In the true sense, the three-person human ladder was a technical job. It required cooperation. In theory, using this skill, even ordinary people could climb to a very high height. To give a more extreme example, Lataro, Amaru, and Wei, all from Ninja Lataro, the three of them, used this skill to climb extremely high cliffs. And now, Mao Taro, Sun Taro, and Xiong Ji, the three of them, only wanted to go to the second floor. If they used the three-person human ladder, it shouldn't be too difficult. If they weren't elementary school students, maybe two people could do it. We're ready. 2 minutes later, Xiao Tan was riding on Xiong Ji's shoulder and shouted softly to Brother Bujue, who was a few meters away. At this time, Xiong Ji straightened his back, bent his legs, and got into a horse stance. His palms were folded together, ready to be used as a stepping board for his companions. Xiao Tan's posture was not relaxed. In addition to using his waist and feet to stabilize his body, he also had to extend his wings forward to provide a stepping board for the second floor. Okay. I'm coming. Feng Bujue saw that his companions were ready, so he responded and took off. As the saying goes, the first drum builds up the spirit, the second will weaken, and the third will exhaust. This kind of movement had a certain degree of difficulty and required a combination of strength, endurance, and skill. The success rate on the first try was the highest. Feng Bujue naturally understood this point. Therefore, he went all out from the beginning and raised his concentration to the limit. In the blink of an eye, there were two sounds of puff-puff. The sound of the meaty pads being stepped on was not loud. He saw a swift black shadow, as light as a cat, jumping up. It was not until he was in midair that Feng Bujue realized that his body was more useful than he had imagined. A cat was a cat. Although it had been anthropomorphized, many of its characteristics were still preserved. For example, during the day, when Feng Bujue saw a reflective glass bottle on the ground, he had an inexplicable desire to go over and play with it. Also, when he saw objects that moved back and forth at high speed, he had the urge to charge forward to stop them. The most ridiculous thing was when he passed by a fruit stall that day. He smelled the scent of oranges, and he could not help but run away. In short, Mao Taro still retained many of the cat's characteristics. Other than the cuteness that made Brother Ju feel a little awkward, there were many useful skills. Night vision, climbing ability, balance, a soft body, and claws that could hurt people when necessary. These were all things that Brother Ju liked to see. Humph, so easy. Feng Bujue easily leaned on the windowsill. He felt that his body was not heavy at all, and he could support it with one arm. Soon, he placed his other paw against the window and pulled it open. He flipped into the room and looked around. The darkness in the corridor on the second floor did not affect Feng Bujue at all. Not to mention, when he came here during the day, he had already memorized 90% of the terrain, distance, and other factors. At this moment, with his focused eyes, he could see everything in the room with the help of the moonlight shining in from outside. Puff, 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 puff. Feng Bujue took off his shoes. Because he was a humanoid character, he was wearing shoes, just like Xiong Ji in the previous case, and moved quickly in the room with his hands and feet. The paw under his feet stepped on the floor, and only a slight puff-puff sound was heard. It was almost silent. In less than a minute, Brother Ju felt his way down to the first floor and stood at the front door. When the door was unlocked, there would be a little bit of noise. Even if the noise was not loud, the sound of metal objects colliding should be very obvious in the dark. Therefore, Feng Bujue opened the door very slowly, trying to minimize the sound of the door being unlocked. It took him 1 minute to go downstairs, but it took him 2 minutes to open the door. 2 minutes later, the door opened. Outside the door, there were two figures who had been waiting for a long time. This time, Feng Bujue really did not say anything. It was fine if he said a few words outside the house, but the sound would spread out, but not inside the house. He winked and hummed a few times, signaling Xiao Tan and Xiong Ji to enter the house. When the three of them were standing in the house, Brother Ju used a very gentle and slow method to close the front door again. Chapter 798. Burglary was a very common crime. However, to be able to do it without leaving a trace while there were other people in the house, it was quite difficult. If Feng Bujue was the only one who could do this, the success rate would be very high. Even with Wang Tangji's help, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. But the problem was, the real protagonist of this burglary was not the two of them but the thief bears_I or Xiong Ji. Feng Bujue believed that this main plot event was a good opportunity for him. He hoped that with his help, Xiong Ji would be able to complete a relatively difficult and technically difficult crime and master a certain escape technique. That way, in the main plot, Xiong Ji's suicide rate would greatly decrease, and the difficulty of the whole scenario would decrease. Therefore, no matter how difficult it was, Brother Ju was willing to take this risk. After leading the two into the house, Feng Bujue gestured and mumbled something under his breath. This time, Xiao Tan and Xiong Ji understood. Brother Ju wanted them to turn on the flashlights. The next second, they picked up the flashlights that Brother Ju had prepared beforehand. With one hand on the switch and the other covering the front of the flashlights, they turned them on. The switches of the two flashlights were silent. The circle of light that came out from the front was very small, and the light was not that bright. Obviously, when Feng Bujue made the purchase, other than the textbooks and stationery in the bag, Katsuburo still had some pocket money in his pocket. Since the system had given him money, Feng Bujue naturally used it to its fullest potential. He had already considered the various situations that he would need to pay attention to. After the two turned on their flashlights and stabilized the circle of light, Feng Bujue gave them a look to signal for them to follow. But to their surprise, when they walked less than 2 meters down the corridor, they heard squeak, squeak. The floorboards under their feet made two sounds that were not too loud, but in this dark and quiet environment it sounded particularly obvious. At this moment, all three of them stopped moving. Xiao Tan and Xiong Ji were shocked by the sound. They froze in place and didn't dare to move. Feng Bujue was also shocked and broke out in a cold sweat, but he didn't panic. From Brother Ju's point of view, this level of mistake was completely acceptable. Even if he alerted Miao Mei or her parents, as long as he wasn't caught red-handed, he could stop the operation at any time. After holding his breath and listening attentively for nearly 2 minutes, Feng Bujue was basically certain that the person, cat, upstairs did not respond to the sound just now. Thus, he slowly turned his head, crawled on the ground, and winked at his two companions. Xiao Tan quickly understood Brother Ju's meaning. He held the flashlight in his mouth, and crawled on the ground as well. As for Xiong Ji, although he didn't understand the instructions, when he saw Xiao Tan crawling on the ground, he followed suit. He held the flashlight in his mouth, and crawled on all fours. Then, they lined up in a row and crawled all the way to the second floor. Sigh. Feng Bujue, who was leading the way, sighed silently in his heart. Look on the bright side. At least I'm a cat. To teach a bear to steal. Xiao Tan, who was crawling in the middle, thought to himself, to go to this extent is quite hard. To be fair, Brother Ju had no choice but to go this far. The wooden floor of Miao Mei's house was old, and once it was pressured, it would easily creak and groan. Previously, when Feng Bujue was moving alone, this problem wasn't obvious. This was because his body was light, he had 4 fours on the ground, there was a cushion under his feet, and he moved quickly. However, after Xiong Ji and Xiao Tan came in, the three of them walked together, and the sound was suppressed. Fortunately, this accident didn't have any consequences. 5 minutes later, the three of them finally reached the second floor. This was the first time that Wang Tongji felt that climbing stairs was such a tiring thing. With Brother Ju leading the way, every step that the three of them took had to be done in slow motion. They had to make sure that they did not make any noise. This might be relatively easy for cats, but it wasn't easy for falcons and bears. When they reached the corridor on the second floor, Feng Bujue turned around and gestured to the other two. He hummed a few times and asked them to rest for a while. When Xiao Tan and Xiong Ji saw this, they laid down on the ground. Of course, they knew that resting was one thing, but they couldn't take deep breath. Anything that would make any obvious noise was not allowed, so they had to hold it in. After resting for another 3 minutes, Xiao Tan and Xiong Ji finally recovered. At this time, Feng Bujue raised his paw and gestured to them again, asking them to follow. After a while, the three of them arrived at the door of the bathroom. When there was no one in the bathroom, the door wouldn't be locked, and since it was the middle of the night, there was no one in the bathroom. Therefore, Feng Bujue directly opened the door with his paw. In the washroom outside the bathroom there was a washing machine, and on top of it, there were some washed clothes that weren't too big. That's right. I'm talking about underwear. After the door was opened, the three burglars walked in. As the floor of the washroom was tiled, as long as they didn't stomp their feet, they wouldn't make much noise. So, after the three of them entered, they stood up one after another. Then, Feng Bujue turned around and looked at Xiong Ji. He mumbled a few times and raised his finger to point upwards. Actually, he didn't need to point, as Xiong Ji's attention had already been attracted. He used his flashlight to shine on the underwear on the hangers above, and revealed a wretched smile. Burglars' clothes, exit, retreat. The process of them leaving was slower than when they sneaked in, because Feng Bujue knew that most burglars who committed crimes would lose their focus after committing the crime. In the process of retreating from the crime scene, their attention would often be diverted to other things. For example, how should we distribute the spoils? Will my companions betray me? How can I betray my companions? Where should I go after I take this money? Or ho-ho-ho, and other thoughts might appear in their minds. Therefore, Brother Ju purposely slowed down the pace of their retreat. When they landed, they were more careful than when they entered. They returned to the front door after 10 minutes. As long as they could open the door before them, the burglary could be considered a success. With Feng Bujue's guidance, Xiong Ji wasn't caught red-handed, and he didn't leave behind any evidence. This provided a good opportunity for him to escape punishment. Next, Brother Ju needed to follow Xiong Ji home and brainwash him through the night. He already had several plans in his mind to correct Xiong Ji's self-exposing behavior. After that night, the rest of the main plot would not be a problem anymore. However, just as they were one step away from success, an inconceivable accident happened. Creak! The front door opened and 3 figures rushed out. But, clang, clang, clang. 3 heavy machines were turned on, and 3 beams of light with a radius of 1 meter shot out. The night was torn apart by this sound and light. Ah! What is that? Xiao Tan was blinded by the sudden glare. He mumbled instinctively, "A searchlight?" After his eyes got used to the light, he looked forward and saw, other than the giant searchlight, there was a sea of red, blue, and white lights flashing on the street. Based on visual observation, there should be more than 10 police cars parked there. Please note, when Xiong Ji is arrested under the identity of Bears_I, the main plot will fail. The moment the police showed up, this announcement also appeared in the 2 players' ears. Is this a F***king joke? Feng Bujue looked at the situation before him. Can't they tell us something like this before we make our move? This is not good. Brother Ju. Xiao Tan looked around. We seem to have been surrounded. Before he could finish, Officer Inyanosuk's voice came through the loudspeaker. Bears_I, we are the police. You and your accomplice have been surrounded by us. Give up on pointless resistance, raise your hands and walk out. Return to the house. Once the officer finished, Feng Bujue said those 2 words. His tone sounded more like an order than a suggestion, but Xiao Tan and Xiong Ji did not mind the context of that statement. They only knew, at a time like this, it was better to follow Brother Ju's orders. Bang! 2 seconds later, the 3 of them retreated into the house and closed the door. It's over, it's over. Xiong Ji hugged his head with both hands, sweating profusely. He ran back and forth anxiously. This is bad. I don't know if I'll be sent to a circus or something. It's good that you'll be sent there. Feng Bujue seemed very relaxed. With your appearance, you can start performing right away. They don't even need to prepare your costume. Teacher Mao Taro. Xiong Ji grabbed Brother Ju's shoulders excitedly. How can you still joke with me so calmly? As he said this, he let go of Brother Ju and took 2 steps back. I can't be arrested. He picked up the white hat on his head, revealing the underwear stuffed inside. It wasn't easy for me to get these precious treasures. If I lose them again, I'll definitely die because I can't take the mental blow. If you die, then die. Feng Bujue ignored Xiong Ji's perverted remarks. He still said in a calm tone, I can turn your death into a legend. Let's put it this way. Underwear, socks, the strange thief bears _ who has everything that perverted gentlemen dream of. His last words before he died made countless perverts rush to Rai City. As he was talking nonsense, he squatted down and put on his shoes again. He had tied the shoelaces of the 2 shoes together and hung them around his neck. My treasure? If you want it, go get it. I put everything there. What do you think of such a last word? This trick of yours. Before Xiong Ji could answer, Xiao Tan complained first. I can't help but think of the legend of banana. Teacher, you can't do this. On the other side, Xiong Ji replied in a panic. Hurry up and think of a way. I'm thinking about it. As Feng Bujue spoke, he had already walked to the kitchen and pulled out a kitchen knife from the knife rack next to the chopping board. Brother Ju. Xiao Tan didn't care about changing the way he addressed Feng Bujue in front of Xiong Ji. He said directly, You're not going to take a kitchen knife out and fight with them, are you? The police have guns. Teacher. Xiong Ji didn't have any reaction to the address, Brother Ju. He just maintained a state of panic and reminded him. Even if they don't have guns, I can't go out and have a direct confrontation with them. Feng Bujue responded expressionlessly and walked back from the kitchen. After all, Mao Taro, he used the 3rd person here to refer to the character I am playing, is just a primary school student. Even if I have a knife, and have far more ruthlessness and combat experience than people my age. Combat experience aside, your viciousness is definitely better than anyone of your age and race. Xiao Tan chimed in at the right moment. Ah, you flatter me. Feng Bujue admitted calmly and continued, but it's obviously very difficult for me to deal with adults, especially trained police officers. Even if it's a one-on-one fight, I don't have the confidence to win. Then you have a knife too. Xiao Tan was slightly startled and his expression changed. Hey, you can't be thinking of. He quickly glanced at Xiong Ji. What are you thinking? Feng Bujue shrugged. Although that is indeed one of the plans, it's not to the point where we have to kill him. Xiong Ji didn't understand what they were talking about, so he asked with confusion, What? Kill who? Nothing. Feng Bujue quickly changed the topic to prevent the man from catching on. Actually, the reason I took the cleaver is very obvious. He raised the cleaver to point at the stairs. There are 3 hostages on the 2nd floor. Oh no, cat hostages. He smiled. They and this room will be our bargaining chip to deal with the police. From the time they closed the door to the end of the conversation, it took less than 2 minutes. The NPCs in Japan and Japan generally spoke fast. Brother Ju's narration and Xiao Tan's sarcasm were also quite fast. Just as Feng Bujue said the word bargaining chip, another voice came from outside the house. Strange robber bears _I, Mao Taro, and Sun Taro give up resisting. This voice was familiar to the three robbers in the house. Tu Mei's voice. It's Tu Mei-chan. Xiong Ji's eyes widened and he said in a panic, She's also outside, and she already recognized teacher and Sun Taro Sr. That's expected. Feng Bujue's tone showed that he had expected this situation. The moment the searchlights came on, I knew we've been tricked by Tu Mei. As he said that, he walked slowly to the second floor. I know you're probably thinking, you can use the cat hostages to confront us. At this time, Tu Mei added, stop dreaming. Miao Mei and her family have already left that house. As soon as she said that, Feng Bujue's footsteps suddenly froze. What? The next second, he rushed out and went straight to Miao Mei's room on the second floor. He didn't rush to kick the door open because he wasn't confident that he could do so. Instead, he tried to turn the doorknob, but the door was unlocked. Feng Bujue pushed the door open and saw an empty bed. "Tsk. I've been tricked," he said unhappily. Outside the room, Tu Mei was still talking through the loudspeaker. "Mao Taro, we've been monitoring your every move." She paused for a moment and said in a proud tone, "You pretended to lose your class notes and used the excuse of investigating Miao Mei's house. After that, the police sent people in and quietly moved her family." "Hey, Brother Ju, you!" Xiao Tan quickly caught up with Brother Ju and appeared at the door of the room. I heard everything." Feng Bujue gave a long sigh and then a smile appeared on his face. Interesting." Seeing Feng Bujue's reaction, Wang Tongji suddenly had an ominous premonition. He knew Brother Ju very well, so he knew that when Feng Bujue had such an expression and commented that someone or something was interesting, it was usually when he was forced into a desperate situation. Brother Ju wouldn't have minded if he was simply suppressed in terms of physical strength. But being schemed against in terms of intelligence was something he absolutely could not accept. At a time like this, most people would have already broken down. The operation was at the last step, and the dawn of victory was right in front of them. However, the situation was reversed in an instant and they were forced into a desperate situation. The frustration, fear, and uncertainty brought by such a situation were indescribable. If it were someone else, even if they didn't break down, they would be at a loss and panic, and it would be difficult to turn the situation around. However, Feng Bujue was different. The more he encountered this kind of hopeless situation, the faster his mind worked. It was as if there was a region in his brain that he didn't normally use, but at certain moments, it would be activated, allowing him to enter a special state of mind. If a name had to be given, the state of madness should be a more suitable name. Come out and surrender. Mao Taro, Sun Taro, and the monster thief bears _I. Bunny Mei was still pressuring them. You don't have any hostages, and this house has been surrounded. It's impossible for you to fight back or escape. She paused for 2 seconds. As for fighting back, I advise you to think about it carefully. Her tone suddenly turned cold. Compared to death, wouldn't it be better to be sent to the clinic? Clang. The next second, the glass window on the second floor was smashed open. A figure appeared in front of the window. But you're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.